Chapter 44. Just as Zhou was about to say something, he suddenly heard a splash as though a bomb had exploded in the water. Both of them turned their heads and saw waves rising in the lotus pond like an erupting volcano. Amidst the waves, a gigantic lotus flower with a diameter of more than 10 meters bloomed. The lotus flower was somewhat different from ordinary Buddha heart lotuses. Ordinary Buddha heart lotuses had pure white petals, but although this Buddha heart lotus's petals were also white, there were many blood-colored patterns on them. The blood-colored patterns were faintly discernible, outlining the silhouette of a seated Buddha. It was as though there was a blood-colored seated Buddha on every petal. Luo Xian rode the white-winged flying horse to dodge the splashes in midair, but the splashes had long splashed onto the white-winged flying horse. The white-winged flying horse neighed in pain. Its snow-white hide was corroded by the droplets of water, forming bloody holes. It looked very terrifying. Luo Xian's expression turned nasty as he desperately steered the white-winged flying horse towards the bank. If he were to fall into the water now, it would be difficult for him and the white-winged flying horse to survive. Reality wasn't a game. Be it humans or companion beasts, death was death. There was no chance of a revival. It was unlike Zhou Wen's phone game, where he could revive after death. Luo Xian wanted to escape, but unfortunately, the demonic Buddha heart lotus had no intention of letting him off. A lotus seed the size of a basketball spewed out from the lotus pod, smashing towards the white-winged flying horse and Luo Xian like a cannonball. The typical Buddha heart lotus spewed out lotus seeds that were emerald green in color, but this lotus seed was blood red like a crystal, as though it was condensed from blood. It instantly arrived in front of Luo Xian. The white-winged flying horse couldn't dodge in time, as Luo Xian drew his sword and slashed. With a cold flash, the sword slashed into the blood-colored lotus seed, but before his sword could completely slice through it, Luo Xian's expression changed. Almost instantly, Luo Xian sheathed his sword and got up. With a tap of his toes on the white-winged flying horse's back, he retreated 2 to 3 meters like an eagle. Bam! At the same time, the blood-colored lotus seed exploded, turning into a rain of blood that enveloped the white-winged flying horse. Following that, Zhou Wen and Li Xian saw a terrifying scene. When the blood rain landed on the white-winged flying horse, it was like red-hot metal encountering snow. It instantly melted the white-winged flying horse's flesh. In just a few breaths of time, a large portion of the white-winged flying horse's flesh had melted away, revealing its ghastly white bones. It only had time to let out a miserable neigh before it fell into the lotus pond. No matter how one looked at it, it was impossible for it to survive. Little White, Luo Xian shouted in grief and indignation, but it was useless, and he was still in danger. He was still at least 500 to 600 meters away from the shore. The white-winged Pegasus was already dead, and he definitely didn't have the ability to fly. This lotus pond, which was 500 to 600 meters wide, was no different from hell to him. Even if Zhou Wen and Li Xian wanted to help, they were helpless. They didn't have any flying companion beasts or invincible Vajra bodies. All they could do was watch helplessly from the side. Just when the two of them thought that Luo Xian was dead for sure, they saw Luo Xian tap the tip of his foot on the lotus leaf. As if he was weightless, he borrowed the force to rise up and step onto another lotus leaf. That pretty boy actually has some tricks up his sleeve. He even knows a primordial energy skill that's related to alacrity, Li Xian exclaimed softly. Zhou Wen was intrigued when he saw Luo Xian leaping onto the lotus leaf. The fragile lotus leaf only swayed gently without being snapped by him. Is there a place in Sunset College's dimensional zone that produces alacrity, primordial energy skills? Zhou Wen asked Li Xian. Of course. The most famous place is Dragon Gate Grotto, Li Xian said. Zhou Wen was already planning on making a trip to Dragon Gate Grotto when he had the chance. If he could download Dragon Gate Grotto as a game dungeon, he could grind for alacrity primordial energy skills without fear. Such primordial energy skills seemed very useful. Even if he couldn't beat his opponent, he could still escape. Bam! Bam! Luo Xian used the lotus leaf to leap, but before he could jump far, he heard the sound of cannonballs being fired. Then he saw more than a dozen blood-colored lotus seeds enveloping him, sealing off all his escape routes, leaving him with no room to dodge. Although Luo Xian still had half a sword remnant in his hand, the sword was useless against the blood-colored lotus seeds. After slicing them apart, the might of their explosions would be even stronger. Gritting his teeth, the clothes on Luo Xian's back tore apart, revealing a blue ox tattoo. In the next second, the blue ox tattoo tore out of his body, transforming into a blue bull companion beast that appeared in front of Luo Xian, blocking the blood-colored lotus seeds. With the blue ox's shield, Luo Xian finally found a chance of survival. At the critical moment, he rushed out of the blood-colored lotus seeds' encirclement. However, the blue ox companion beast was in a tragic state. It was stained by the blood from the explosion of the blood-colored lotus seeds. Its flesh and blood corroded as it fell into the pool with a tragic cry. That pretty boy Luo Xian sure is rich. He actually has 2 mortal companion beasts. Unfortunately, even so, he won't be able to escape death. He's just too far from the shore, Li Xian said with a shake of his head. Zhou ignored Li Xian as he stared at the lotus pond. The white-winged flying horse and the blue ox had fallen into the lotus pond. Their flesh and blood had corroded, reducing them to a pile of bones at the bottom of the pond. This terrifying scene made Zhou recall his mutated skeleton ant. The lotus pond and the Buddha heart lotus's blood seemed to only corrode flesh and blood. The bones weren't corroded. Then, could the mutated skeleton ant, whose entire body had been reduced to bones, survive in the lotus pond? After some thought, Zhou summoned the mutated skeleton ant and ordered it to approach the lotus pond. Then, he extended one of its claws into the lotus pond's water. The mutated skeleton ant flew out from the back of Zhou hand. It looked like it was made of blood-stained bones, and its body was covered in bone spikes. Now, it was much larger than its evolved body. It resembled a skeleton tank, looking even more ferocious and terrifying than in-game. Holy sh*T, what companion beast is this? Li Xian was given a fright by the mutated skeleton ant's sudden appearance. Only then did he react and realize that it was Zhou's companion beast. Skeleton ant. Zhou answered casually as he controlled the skeleton ant to extend one of its claws into the lotus pond. What are you doing? Li Xian jumped in fright. However, Li Xian soon realized that the skeleton ant's claws were completely fine when it reached into the water. It wasn't corroded by the lotus pond's water. Only then did Zhou confirm that his guess was right. The mutated skeleton ant that had transformed into bones wasn't afraid of the lotus pond water. With a thought, the mutated skeleton ant slowly entered the lotus pond. Its body came into contact with the pond's water, but nothing happened. Clearly, the pond's water had no effect on it. Chapter 45. Li Xian watched as the mutated skeleton ant crawled across the surface of the water with his mouth agape. Luo Xian quickly leaped across the lotus leaf, but the Buddha heart lotus's second volley of lotus seeds shot at him, leaving him no room to dodge. Furthermore, even if he could dodge the second volley, his primordial energy wouldn't be able to sustain his constant usage of primordial energy skills. If he fell into the lotus pond, he would still be doomed. Luo Xian, land on that ant's back. Suddenly, Luo Xian heard a voice coming from the shore. Luo Xian had no idea who was speaking, nor was he in the mood to care. He tried his best to dodge most of the blood-colored lotus seeds, but there was one that he couldn't avoid. All he could do was grit his teeth and block it with his sword. He knew that his actions were meaningless. The blood-colored lotus seed would still explode when it struck the remnant sword, and he would still be corroded into a pool of blood. However, his survival instincts made him choose to do so. Before the remnant sword struck the blood-colored lotus seed, Luo Xian suddenly saw a blood-colored figure flash over his head. A gigantic and ferocious ant leaped over his head and slammed into the blood-colored lotus seed. The blood-colored lotus seed exploded on the ant's head, drenching it. However, the ferocious-looking ant didn't seem to feel anything. It landed on the surface of the water and quickly moved its 6 claws before crawling towards Luo Xian. Luo Xian was alarmed, imagining that the ant was going to attack him. However, recalling the voice from before and connecting it to the ant's action of blocking the blood-colored lotus seed, he immediately came to a realization. With a tap of his foot on the lotus leaf, he jumped onto the mutated skeleton ant's back. The mutated skeleton ant crawled across the surface of the water at a speed much faster than Luo Xian's jumping. By the time the Buddha Heart Lotus launched its 3rd volley, it had already charged out of the blood-colored lotus seed's attack range. The mutated skeleton ant rushed to the shore and stopped in front of Zhou. Luo Xian jumped off the mutated skeleton ant's back. No matter how dumb he was, he could tell that the mutated skeleton ant was Zhou Wen's companion beast. The person who had warned him was likely Zhou Wen. "My name is Luo Xian. I'll definitely repay you for saving my life in the future. What's your name?" Luo Xian asked. "My name is Zhou Wen. He's Li Xian. We're classmates, so there's no need to take it to heart," Zhou Wen said casually. "Zhou Wen, I'll remember you." Luo Xian sized up Zhou Wen's appearance seriously before turning to leave. This fellow is already in such a sorry state, but he still has that cocky look on his face. It really pisses me off. Li Xian couldn't stand Luo Xian. However, in the blink of an eye, Li Xian was delighted again. He chuckled and said, "Without the white-winged flying horse, let's see how this fellow can act cool in school in the future." Zhou Wen ignored him and sized up the gigantic Buddha Heart Lotus in the middle of the lotus pond, secretly guessing if it was a legendary dimensional creature. "Zhou Wen, that skeleton ant of yours does have some tricks up its sleeve. It seems to be able to counter that strange Buddha Heart Lotus. Why don't you let it try and see if it can kill the Buddha Heart Lotus? If it succeeds, you might be able to obtain something good," Li Xian said as he looked at the Buddha Heart Lotus. "Forget it. That Buddha Heart Lotus is very odd. I only have one companion beast, so it's best I don't take the risk." Zhou Wen planned on using the game to grind the underground Buddha City dungeon. In-game, companion beasts could be revived, but if they died in real life, they would really be dead. Why take such a huge risk? You're good at everything, but you lack the passion a young man should have. What's there to be afraid of? It's just a companion beast. At most, I'll think of a way to get another one in the future. If I can kill that strange Buddha Heart Lotus now, who knows, a special companion beast might drop. Wouldn't that be great? Li Xian said gloomily. "I don't like gambling." Zhou Wen shook his head and turned to leave. Li Xian could only follow Zhou Wen back helplessly. It wasn't easy for him to obtain 2 passes through his connections, but he didn't even kill a single dimensional creature after coming to Buddha City. Now, he had to return. "Why don't we head to that strange place to take a look?" Li Xian suggested, unwilling to return just like that. "You have a legendary companion beast to protect your life, but I don't. Besides, I don't wish to risk my life." Zhou Wen walked back without looking back. "You don't have any adventurous spirit." Li Xian shrugged his shoulders and left Buddha City with Zhou Wen. Li Xian grumbled the entire way that Zhou Wen was too timid, but Zhou Wen ignored him. After returning to Li Xian's house, he went straight to his room and activated underground Buddha City. When the blood-colored avatar entered underground Buddha City, it was identical to the one Zhou Wen saw. Zhou Wen took out the map he had gotten from Li Xian and gamed according to the map. It didn't take long for him to find the Lotus Pond. It was different from reality. In reality, the Buddha Heart Lotuses near the shore had all been slain by the students. Only the depths of the Lotus Pond had Buddha Heart Lotuses. But in-game, the pond was filled with Buddha Heart Lotuses. Not only were there in the middle of the pond, but there were also many around it. However, he didn't see the gigantic Buddha Heart Lotus. To prevent the blood-colored avatar from dying, Zhou Wen didn't let it enter the Lotus Pond. All he did was summon the mutated skeleton ant and make a charge at a Buddha Heart Lotus that was closer to the shore. The mutated skeleton ant's sharp front claws sliced the emerald green lotus seeds that the Buddha Heart Lotus spewed out into 2. The claws didn't stop as they sliced the Buddha Heart Lotus into 2. Killed mortal dimensional creature Buddha Heart Lotus. The system notification appeared, but nothing dropped. Zhou ordered the mutated skeleton ant to storm into the lotus pond, slaying any Buddha heart lotus it saw. After slaying more than 30 Buddha heart lotuses, a dimensional crystal finally dropped. However, when Zhou took a careful look, he realized that it was a Constitution 2-dimensional crystal. All it could do was replenish his expended primordial energy and nothing else. While Zhou was crazily slaying the Buddha heart lotuses, the news of a gigantic Buddha heart lotus appearing in the lotus pond had already spread throughout Sunset College. Many students who hadn't left the college during the holidays rushed to the lotus pond when they heard the news. There was no lack of powerful legendary stage students. Everyone wanted to slay the gigantic Buddha heart lotus, but the outcome was shocking. A legendary stage student released a legendary golden-eyed condor companion beast in an attempt to slay the Buddha heart lotus in midair. However, it was struck down by the Buddha heart lotus and nearly fell into the lotus pond. All its feathers were corroded to the point of falling off. Thankfully, the golden-eyed condor's owner had reacted in time and allowed the golden-eyed condor to retreat. However, it was left half dead. It wasn't an easy task to fully recover. Chapter 46. Ding! In the underground Buddha City dungeon, Zhou had slain countless Buddha heart lotuses before finally dropping a Buddha heart lotus crystal. Zhou was somewhat disappointed. After working hard for most of the night, the sky was almost bright, but not a single Buddha heart lotus companion egg had dropped. The dimensional crystals he had obtained were useless as well. Only this Buddha heart lotus crystal might be of some use. Li Xian didn't tell Zhou what primordial energy skill the Buddha heart lotus had, but from its ability to spew out lotus seeds, it was likely a hidden weapon-type primordial energy skill. Primordial energy skills at the mortal stage basically didn't have the ability to release primordial energy. Even at the legendary stage, only a few primordial energy skills could achieve the effect of releasing primordial energy. Primordial energy skills at the mortal stage basically didn't have the ability to release primordial energy. Even at the legendary stage, only a few primordial energy skills could achieve the effect of releasing primordial energy. After directly absorbing the Buddha heart lotus crystal, a strange force quickly entered Zhou's body from the phone. The Buddha heart lotus crystal's power was different from the crystals Zhou had absorbed in the past. Its power was extremely gentle, like warm spring water being injected into his body. It slowly flowed through his body and finally into his heart, causing his heartbeat to become stronger. Absorbed Buddha heart lotus crystal. Attained primordial energy skill. Heart meditation, rank 7. Zhou attempted to use heart meditation, but he felt a warm current emanate from his heart and spread throughout his body. It made him feel warm all over, but it didn't seem to have any other effect. It's no wonder Li Xian only mentioned how powerful the Buddha heart lotus companion beast was without mentioning its primordial energy skill. It's indeed useless. Zhou didn't mind as he continued commanding the mutated skeleton ant to slay the Buddha heart lotus. Just as he was in the mood to commit suicide, he suddenly heard a boom. The nearby pool water spewed out more than 100 feet high as a gigantic Buddha heart lotus with a seated blood Buddha on its petals burst out of the water. Before the mutated skeleton ant could take action, the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus spewed out more than 10 blood-colored lotus seeds that enveloped the mutated skeleton ant, relying on the fact that the mutated skeleton ant wasn't afraid of the blood's corrosion. Zhou ordered the mutated skeleton ant to charge at the blood-colored lotus seeds. The blood-colored lotus seeds smashed onto the mutated skeleton ant, causing large amounts of blood to splatter all over its body. Unfortunately, they failed to deal it any damage. The mutated skeleton ant rapidly charged at the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus and leaped up when it was about 5 to 6 meters away from it. Its sawtooth-like claws slashed at the stem in a crisscross manner. According to Zhou's observations, the Buddha heart lotus's physique wasn't very strong. Even if it was a legendary creature with a mutated skeleton ant's strength and talent, there was a chance of cleaving off its stem. Just as the mutated skeleton ant was about to rush in front of the Buddha heart lotus, the Buddha heart lotus suddenly opened its petals like a strange mouth that devoured the mutated skeleton ant. The petals contracted and turned into a budding state. Skeleton ant heaven mutated when had point Zhou almost to the mutated soul. When had but when he saw the one God, the skeleton heart. He had when Saint One had one of the Buddha. What a terrifying Buddha heart lotus. Zhou couldn't help but sigh. Without the mutated skeleton ant, Zhou no longer had the ability to enter the lotus pond to slay the Buddha heart lotus. Although companion beasts could be revived in-game, it required the companion beast and the blood-colored avatar to be revived together. This meant that when Zhou used a drop of blood to produce the blood-colored avatar, the companion beast would be revived as well. But now, the blood-colored avatar wasn't dead. It would be a waste to send it to its death. Zhou looked at the map Li Xian had given him before controlling the blood-colored avatar to head for the restricted zone the military had marked out. Since he was going to die, he might as well head there to take a look and see what mysteries lay. The ancient, dark, and damp underground Buddha city was filled with dilapidated walls. There were also plenty of sand and rocks that had tumbled to the ground. When he approached the restricted zone, Zhou saw a stone bridge. Typical stone bridges had carvings of flowers, plants, birds, and beasts, but this stone bridge was carved with colorful fairies. The so-called fairies referred to immortals flying in the sky. The fairies were in the form of young women. Their clothes fluttered in the wind, making them look extremely graceful. After comparing it to the map, Zhou quickly determined that he would reach the restricted zone the military had marked out after crossing the stone bridge. The soldiers had inexplicably died on the other side of the bridge. Zhou was only gaming, so he naturally didn't have any qualms. He controlled the blood-colored avatar to step onto the stone bridge. He didn't discover anything out of the ordinary. It was as though it was an extremely ordinary stone bridge. The blood-colored avatar easily crossed the stone bridge and arrived on the other side. It was impossible to tell what the other side of the bridge looked like. Both sides were filled with rocks, and there was only a narrow stone gap that allowed one person to pass through. He could vaguely see a flickering flame at the end of the stone gap. It was likely a torch or an oil lamp. Zhou carefully sized up the stone gap and didn't discover anything out of the ordinary. All he could do was control the blood-colored avatar to walk into the stone gap and head for the source of the light. The stone gap gradually led upwards. Only then did Zhou realize that there were actually stone steps beneath his feet. However, due to the soil and gravel, the stone steps had been buried. After walking for a while, he could see the exposed stone steps. After walking for a few hundred meters, he didn't discover any danger. However, Zhou didn't dare be careless. He kept observing the stone walls on both sides and the stone steps beneath his feet. However, nothing happened the entire way. Instead, the flame gradually became clearer. With the help of the flame, Zhou could vaguely see a magnificent mountain gate. There was a plaque above the mountain gate. It was somewhat dilapidated, and the red paint on it was almost gone. The words were already very blurry. At such a distance, it was impossible to read them clearly. Zhou controlled the blood-colored avatar to gradually approach the mountain gate. Soon, he saw the words "Small Buddha Temple" written on the mountain gate. What small Buddha temple? Zhou was slightly surprised. He had only heard of large Buddha temple, but he had never heard of a small Buddha temple. Just as Zhou was pondering over it, he suddenly saw the game screen turn black. Clearly, the blood-colored avatar had died. How did it die? Zhou couldn't help but frown. He kept staring at the blood-colored avatar, but he didn't discover how it had died. He dripped his blood to revive again, allowing the blood-colored avatar to enter underground Buddha city. First, he went to the lotus pond. After luring out the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus, the mutated skeleton ant was killed. The blood-colored avatar went to small Buddha temple again, but it still died for some baffling reason on the stone steps in front of the mountain gate. Zhou widened his eyes as he watched carefully. However, he couldn't tell how the blood-colored avatar had died under his nose. Chapter 47. Of course, this was only the feeling the blood-colored avatar gave Zhou. His organs hadn't really shrunk. Strange, I didn't see any dimensional creatures appear. There's not even a single blade of grass near the stone crevice. What could have killed the blood-colored avatar? It's no wonder even the army is helpless here. This place is really strange. Zhou wanted to continue grinding the lotus pond and small Buddha temple, but he heard a knock on the door. Zhou, are you up? Li Xian's voice sounded from outside. Only then did Zhou realize that the sky had already lit up. He had unknowingly spent the night playing. Time had passed too quickly. The door isn't locked, Zhou said. Li Xian pushed the door open and saw Zhou playing on his phone. Furthermore, there were dark circles under his eyes and his hair was messy. He couldn't help but say in surprise, "Don't tell me you gamed all night. If you have something to say, say it. Don't disturb my sleep," Zhou said as he put down his phone. He still planned on sleeping for a while, but in the past, sleeping was a form of rest for him. Now, sleeping was a form of torture for him. The feeling of being pinned down wasn't pleasant. Furthermore, there was a devil-like murmuring that didn't stop the entire night. Only Zhou could focus on ignoring the soul-stirring murmurs and barely withstand the pressure. If it were anyone else who was tortured like this every day, they would probably go mad. Even Zhou subconsciously refused to sleep, so he unknowingly gamed so crazily. Sunset College's school starts much earlier than the average university. In a few days, we will officially start school. If nothing unexpected happens, we might even have a chance to watch a good show after school, Li Xian said with a chuckle. What good show? Zhou asked. Li Xian said mysteriously. I heard that many legendary students in the top 20 of Sunset College went to the Lotus Pond in a bid to slay the gigantic Buddha, Heart Lotus. However, not only did they fail, they even lost quite a number of legendary companion beasts. Now, they're actively buying flying pets. We should be able to make it in time for the battle. Sunset College and the military have epic experts. Why don't they directly send them to destroy the Buddha, Heart Lotus? Zhou asked in puzzlement. If all the problems are solved, how are they going to nurture the next generation? The League has a rule that these resources are reserved for future flowers like us. If it's not for special circumstances, the military and schools won't interfere, Li Xian said. After a pause, Li Xian said, I originally wanted to invite you out for breakfast, but from the looks of it, you probably want to sleep. Then, I'll go by myself. After Li Xian left, Zhou lay in bed to sleep. Just like usual, he quickly fell asleep. The feeling of being pinned down by a ghost descended on him at the same time. The devilish murmurs kept ringing in his ears like flies that couldn't be chased away. Zhou ignored the discomfort in his body, nor did he listen to the voice. All he wanted to do was sleep, but it was difficult for him to sleep as soundly as before. After sleeping for 4 to 5 hours, he was woken up by his phone's ringtone. He felt a little better. Feng Ruoxi? Zhou glanced at the caller ID and saw that it was Feng Ruoxi. Zhou, long time no see. I heard you applied for Sunset College. Is that true? Feng Ruoxi's voice sounded. Yes, Zhou answered. That's good. Feng Ruoxi seemed to heave a sigh of relief. What do you mean? Zhou didn't know what Feng Ruoxi meant. Nothing. I still have something to do. I'll hang up first. Feng Ruoxi's voice sounded a lot happier. With that said, she hung up. Ridiculous. Zhou looked at his phone speechlessly. Just as he was about to put down his phone, it rang again. This time, it was Zhou Lingfeng. Dad. Zhou had no choice but to pick up the call. Zhou Lingfeng's voice sounded. Son, you should be in Luoyang now, right? I'm in Luoyang. Why? Zhou had an ominous feeling. Little Lon wants to treat you to a meal. Let's have a family gathering, Zhou Lingfeng said with a smile. I'm doing pretty well here. You guys are doing pretty well, so there's no need to forcefully stick together, right? Zhou said with a frown. After all, we will be family in the future. It's only right to get to know each other. Besides, Little Lon really wants to meet you. Just give me some face and have a meal. Zhou Lingfeng had no intention of giving up. Zhou pondered for a moment before saying, "All right then. What time and where? That place isn't easy to find. Where are you? I'll get someone to pick you up," Zhou Lingfeng said. Zhou gave an address. He didn't mention Li Xian's house, only the name of a nearby street. "All right, wait a moment. I'll get someone to pick you up." Zhou Lingfeng hung up after saying that. Zhou didn't know when the person Zhou Lingfeng called would arrive. All he could do was get out of bed, wash up, and head out. When he came to the road he had pointed out, he squatted by the side of the road and continued gaming when he saw that no one was there. This time, Zhou didn't continue grinding underground Buddha City. Instead, he chose the iron ant nest. He wanted to see if he had a chance of killing the silver-winged flying ant. Before he found the silver-winged flying ant, he heard the screech of brakes. An off-road vehicle had stopped by the side of the road. When Zhou looked up, he happened to see a snow-white, smooth, and slender leg extend out from the open car door. Then, he saw a familiar face. And Jing? Zhou never expected Zhou Lingfeng to get in Jing to pick him up. He was slightly taken aback. And Jing glanced at Zhou's phone and couldn't help but frown when she saw the game screen. She sized up Zhou's body, and her expression turned colder. "You didn't cultivate the sun strafe art. I was just about to ask you. I called my dad, but he said he didn't give me the sun strafe art." Zhou controlled the blood-colored avatar to find a safe zone before exiting the game and asking in Jing, "I gave you the sun strafe art to harm you." And Jing said with a cold expression. Before getting into the car. Without turning her head, she said, "Are you getting in or not?" Zhou never expected in Jing to be so direct. He was momentarily unsure if she was telling the truth. However, since she was already here and he had already promised Zhou Lingfeng, there was naturally no reason for him to return. Zhou opened the door and sat in the front passenger seat. "I'll return this to you." Zhou took out the USB drive that contained the sun strafe art. Chapter 48. I never take back things I give away. If I don't want it, I'll just delete it and throw it away, and Jing said without turning her head as she drove. Zhou placed the USB drive back into his pocket when he heard that. A USB drive wasn't worth much, so there was no need to return it to Jing. Although he didn't know if the sun strafe art in it was real or fake, it was just as Jing had said. He could just delete it, without a word on the way, and Jing quickly drove him to a spot. Zhou would originally believe that Li Xian was a tycoon just from living in a villa, but when he saw this, he realized what it meant to be a real tycoon. This place was like a park, and Jing drove the car in. Amidst the exquisite and elegant garden, there were quite a number of modern-style buildings. However, they perfectly blended in with the surrounding garden. They were in picturesque disorder, clearly designed by a famous designer. In front of a 3-story building, and Jing stopped the car and led Zhou into the building through the main entrance. Just as he entered the hall, he saw a mature and elegant woman sitting on the sofa with Zhou Lingfeng. Zhou sized up the woman and saw that she resembled the photo Zhou Lingfeng had sent. She was likely Ouyang Lan, but she was prettier and more elegant in person than in the photo. She looked to be in her 30s. "Hello, Annie." Zhou took the initiative to greet her. Firstly, he didn't want to put Zhou Lingfeng in a difficult position. Secondly, he wanted to make it clear that he had no intention of acknowledging Ouyang Lan as his mother. "Little one, you're here. You're much more handsome in person than in the photo. It's just that you don't look too good. I happen to cook some ginseng soup. Have some later to nourish yourself." Ouyang Lan got up and pulled Zhou by the hand to the sofa. "Thank you, Annie." Although Zhou didn't have a high EQ, he wasn't foolish enough to reject Ouyang Lan's kind intentions. All he wanted was to successfully finish the meal and return to gaming. He wanted to see if he could kill the silver-winged flying ant. Ouyang Lan was clearly the type of person with a high EQ. Even though it was their first time meeting, Zhou didn't feel any distance between them. It was as though they had known each other for a long time. Zhou originally believed that Zhou Lingfeng was someone with a glib tongue, but when he was with Ouyang Lan, Zhou Lingfeng appeared somewhat stiff. It left Zhou alarmed. "These are fresh persimmons that were just delivered. Xiao Jing, you like eating persimmons the most. Try them first. They're very sweet." Ouyang Lan seemed to feel that she had neglected Jing by the side. She personally picked up a rosy and alluring persimmon and handed it to Jing. And Jing took the persimmon, peeled it, and took a bite. It was indeed sweet. Here, have another one. Seeing Jing finish eating, Ouyang Lan gave her another one. And Jing took the persimmon and deliberately glanced at Zhou. Although she didn't say a word, Zhou understood what she meant. A biological mother is a biological mother. And Jing seemed to be saying that because Ouyang Lan didn't give a persimmon to Zhou. Zhou didn't mind. Ouyang Lan was Jing's biological mother, so it was normal for her to dote on Jing. There was no need for him to be jealous. Furthermore, he had no intention of integrating into the family, so there was naturally no reason for him to mind. While Ouyang Lan was chatting with Zhou, a butler-like person came over and said, "Madam, dinner's ready. You must be hungry after waiting for so long. Eat more later." Ouyang Lan pulled Zhou to the dining room and even got him to sit beside her. Instead, Jing could only sit at a seat further away. Zhou saw that the dishes on the table smelled, and looked great. He had never seen many of them before, but there was a huge lobster that Zhou recognized at a glance. Ever since the dimensional storms, most of the sea had become a dimensional zone. The creatures inside had mutated, so it was much harder to eat seafood than before. Zhou had only read about lobsters in history books, biology books, and the internet. He had never seen the real thing, much less eaten it. It was especially so in an inland area like Guide City. It was almost impossible to eat seafood, much less such a huge lobster. This lobster was just flown in this morning. I even made it myself. Little Jing loves this kind of lobster the most, Ouyang Lan said. As there was only one lobster, Zhou believed that Ouyang Lan was telling him to be tactful and not snatch the lobster from Jing. And Jing was somewhat touched when she heard that. Her frosty face finally revealed a smile as she gave Zhou a provocative look. However, Ouyang Lan said with a look of regret, "However, seafood like lobster can't be eaten with persimmons. Otherwise, it will cause diarrhea and, in serious cases, food poisoning. And Jing just ate a persimmon, so I'll leave this lobster to you, little one. Have a taste of my culinary skills." With that said, Ouyang Lan placed the lobster on Zhou's plate. Instantly, Jing, who was about to grab the lobster, froze. Zhou wore a look of shock. "It's on purpose. It's definitely on purpose." No matter how Zhou looked at it, Ouyang Lan had deliberately given Jing a persimmon. It was clearly a trap. It was no wonder Zhou found it odd. With Ouyang Lan's high EQ, there were several persimmons on the plate. It wasn't like Jing could finish them all by herself, so why wouldn't she give one to Zhou? Is this really Jing's biological mother? Zhou looked at the elegant Ouyang Lan with her bright eyes and white teeth, his mind filled with questions. Regardless, Ouyang Lan seemed to treat Zhou very well. If one didn't know them, they would think that Ouyang Lan was Zhou's biological mother and Jing was the burden of his ex-wife. Jing's expression didn't look too good, but it was obvious that her upbringing wasn't bad. Despite feeling aggrieved, she didn't leave in anger. Instead, she waited until the end of the meal. However, she was in a rather bad mood, so she only ate a little. Zhou finally understood what it meant to feel at home, to feel like a spring breeze, and to feel like returning home. Even someone as slow and distant as Zhou had to admit that Ouyang Lan was indeed someone who made it difficult for others to feel ill will. He was even very willing to be close to her. "Little one, I heard that you were admitted to Sunset College. You must have suffered a lot, right? It's not easy for students from other places to be admitted to Sunset College. I don't have much to give you, so treat this as a greeting gift." After the meal, just as Zhou was about to bid farewell and leave, Ouyang Lan handed him a card. Zhou originally imagined that it was something like a bank card. Just as he was about to reject it, he heard Ouyang Lan say, "This is Sunset College's dorm card. It's the kind with a single room. I heard from Ling Feng that you like peace and quiet, so I got the principal to prepare one. After you matriculate, just stay in the dorm according to the card number. You have to accept this small gift. Don't make me think that this gift was prepared too casually. All right? Thank you, Andy." I like this gift very much. Zhou thought for a moment before accepting the gift. Since Ouyang Lan had expressed her goodwill, he didn't wish to be the bad guy. A dorm card was nothing. Furthermore, a single room was indeed very useful to Zhou. Ouyang Lan's gift made Zhou's impression of her rise. Even giving her a gift made him feel comfortable. Ouyang Lan was truly a meticulous person. By the way, don't call me auntie in the future. Am I that old? Just call me Sis Lan in the future, Ouyang Lan said with a faint smile. Chapter 49. When he left the Yin family, a chauffeur drove him back. He didn't see Yin Jing again. Why is Ouyang Lan deliberately currying favor with me? With the Yin family's power, there's no need for her to do so. Zhou saw that the Yin family's yard was guarded by regular troops. There weren't many families in Luoyang with such power. It didn't make sense that Ouyang Lan wanted to build a good relationship with him because of his relationship with Zhou Lingfeng. After all, even Zhou Lingfeng was letting him live. There was no need for Ouyang Lan to do something so troublesome. Unable to figure it out, Zhou stopped thinking about it. After all, he was just a poor kid. Ouyang Lan wouldn't be able to get anything out of him. When he returned to Li Xian's villa, Li Xian wasn't at home. He hadn't seen Li Xian at home for the past few days. Zhou sat on the sofa and took out his phone to restart the ant nest dungeon. As the blood-colored avatar had exited the game without dying, he didn't need to waste a drop of blood to enter the game. The blood-colored avatar appeared at the spot where it had previously exited. There were quite a number of vigor ants crawling around. Zhou summoned the mutated skeleton ant and got the blood-colored avatar to ride it as it charged forward. The mutated skeleton ant was just too powerful. Ignoring ordinary vigor ants, even mutated vigor ants would be cleaved into two with a single claw. He charged forward unstoppably, and after killing a mutated vigor ant, Zhou heard a ding. He imagined that a dimensional crystal had dropped, but on careful look, it was a mutated vigor ant egg. Discovered mutated vigor ant egg. Compatibility with mutated skeleton ant, 73%. Fuse? Zhou chose no, because the previous fusion didn't have much of an effect. Perhaps this fusion would make the mutated skeleton ant weaker, so he didn't make the attempt. After Zhou chose no, the mutated vigor ant egg automatically entered incubation mode. Zhou felt his primordial energy flow towards the companion egg. The incubation this time was very smooth. There was no primordial energy draining. Zhou glanced at the stats in-game and saw that he had 2 points of primordial energy left. After the mutated vigor ant egg hatched, it transformed into an ant tattoo that appeared on the back of Zhou's right hand. Perhaps because there was already a mutated skeleton ant on the back of his left hand, it could only choose his right hand. Mutated vigor ant, mortal strength, 7 speed, for constitution, 7 essence energy, 2 innate skill, divine strength fist, stage 2, companion form, boxing glove. This mutated vigor ant stats are much worse than the first one. It's no longer of much use to me. Unfortunately, I can't take out the items obtained in-game. Otherwise, it would be better to sell the companion egg. Zhou felt somewhat depressed. Although he was depressed, the harvest was still gratifying. After all, mortal companion beasts were rare to begin with. As he had expended too much primordial energy, he didn't directly seek out the silver-winged flying ant. Instead, he circled the vicinity and killed a large number of vigor ants, dropping primordial energy crystals to replenish his expended primordial energy. After replenishing his primordial energy to 10 points, he headed for the silver-winged flying ant. When it saw the silver-winged flying ant from afar, it flapped its wings and flew over. It was so fast that it left after images on the game screen. Without any hesitation, Zhou summoned the mutated vigor ant and got it to deal with the nearby ordinary ants. As for the mutated skeleton ant, it was summoned by Zhou in its companion form. Blood-stained white bones appeared on Zhou's left arm like an exoskeleton. They wrapped around his entire left arm, forming a hideous bone bracer. Not only did the bracer provide protection, but there were also many bone spikes on it, making it look hideous and terrifying. Almost at the same time the bracer took form, Zhou felt a surge of energy surge into his left arm. It made the strength he had gathered in his left arm even more robust. He had the urge to shatter a boulder with a single punch. The silver-winged flying ant arrived in a blink of an eye as its transparent silver wings flapped rapidly. It drew an arc in the air like a silver bolt of lightning as its claws stabbed straight at the blood-colored avatar's chest. It wasn't the first time Zhou had fought the silver-winged flying ant, so he knew it like the back of his hand. Upon seeing the silver-winged flying ant's actions, he knew where it wanted to attack. Before it struck out with its claws, he had already sidestepped. At the same time, his left hand, which was wrapped in the bone bracer, struck out with ashen palm at the instant he crossed paths with the silver-winged flying ant. At such a close distance, with ashen palm's explosive speed, Zhou believed that he was in the bag. But to his surprise, the 4 transparent silver wings on the silver-winged flying ant's back emitted a silver stream of light. The silver-winged flying ant, which was already extremely fast, had its speed increased significantly. At such a close distance, Zhou's ashen palm failed to catch up to the silver-winged flying ant's flying speed. It barely touched its body. Instead, the silver-winged flying ant's claws stabbed straight into the blood-colored avatar's chest, preventing it from even having a chance to struggle. It died on the spot. A flying-type primordial energy skill? Looking at the black screen, Zhou didn't feel depressed. Instead, he felt even more excited. In the past, the silver-winged flying ant had never used a primordial energy skill, but this time, he had forced it to use one. This gave Zhou an opportunity. After all, primordial energy skills required the support of primordial energy. It was impossible for the silver-winged flying ant to use it constantly. As long as Zhou thought of a way to last a little longer, it wouldn't be impossible for him to slay it. Furthermore, the silver-winged flying ant had a flying-type primordial energy skill. This was undoubtedly good news for Zhou. Flying-type primordial energy skills were rare to begin with, but they were very useful. With something to look forward to, Zhou worked even harder. He used a syringe to draw blood and dripped a drop on the phone screen, reviving the blood-colored avatar and returning to battle. When he came in front of the silver-winged flying ant again, Zhou lasted another 3 seconds. When he came in front of the silver-winged flying ant for the 3rd time, Zhou used his positioning and ashen palm to threaten it, successfully dodging 2 of its primordial energy skills. Zhou exchanged his repeated deaths for combat experience as he got closer and closer to killing the silver-winged flying ant. Finally, Zhou was certain that the silver-winged flying ant could only use 2 primordial energy skills. This was its limit. As long as Zhou could dodge the 2 greatest threats, he had a chance of killing it. Chapter 50. The silver-winged flying ant's slender waist wasn't snapped, nor did it show any signs of injury. However, after flying a few meters, its waist suddenly seemed to snap. The lower half of its body drooped down weakly as it staggered a few times before falling to the ground due to an unstable center of gravity. Zhou was delighted when he saw this. He hurriedly controlled the blood-colored avatar to rush over and strike the silver-winged flying ant in the head with ashen palm. After this strike, Zhou's primordial energy was completely drained. He was once again unable to use primordial energy skills. However, the effects of the strike were very obvious. With the augmentation of the bone bracer, the explosive power of ashen palm caused the silver-winged flying ant's brain to turn into a mess. Immediately, it seemed to be demented as it flapped its wings and spun around. Seeing that it wasn't dead, Zhou went forward to deliver a few more punches. However, without the support of primordial energy, he was unable to use primordial energy skills. With only his strength and the augmentation of the bone bracer, he only managed to send the silver-winged flying ant tumbling a few times without suffering any serious injuries. However, the 2 full-powered ashen palms were too lethal. After the silver-winged flying ant thrashed around for a while, it gradually stopped moving. Ding! Killed legendary creature, silver-winged flying ant discovered silver-winged flying ant companion egg. Zhou was slightly taken aback. He never expected a companion egg to drop. Although the chances of a companion egg dropping at the legendary stage were much higher, it was still a tiny probability. It was considered lucky for a companion egg to drop the first time he killed the silver-winged flying ant. However, in that case, Zhou had no choice but to take a gamble. A legendary companion egg required too much primordial energy to incubate. He might not be able to successfully incubate it. Zhou's only advantage was that he could incubate it with his game character. Even if he failed, the game character would die and it wouldn't affect him. However, he didn't know if the companion egg would still exist. This darn game. Can I have a backpack or something? I can store the companion eggs and dimensional crystals after I pick them up. There's no need to use them immediately. It was useless for Zhou to complain. All he could do was control the blood-colored avatar to pick up the companion egg. Otherwise, the companion egg would be gone when his game character died and the dungeon respawned. He didn't directly pick up the companion egg. Instead, he grinded the vigor ants for a while and primordial energy crystals dropped. After replenishing his primordial energy, he picked up the silver-winged flying ant companion egg. Silver-winged flying ant and mutated skeleton ant have a compatibility of 21%. Compatibility with mutated vigor ant is 1%. Proceed with fusion? They're both ants, so why is the compatibility so low? The system notification left Zhou somewhat speechless. Without any intention of changing his mind, Zhou chose no before the companion egg entered incubation mode. Buzz. Zhou felt all his meridians vibrate violently like a bowstring. The primordial energy in his body was instantly sucked away, leaving nothing behind. It made Zhou feel as though he was about to die. He felt an explosive burning pain on his back as he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Bang! Without any surprises, the blood-colored avatar exploded and the screen went black. Indeed, even with the primordial energy limit of 10, which is very difficult to obtain at the mortal stage, it's still too difficult to incubate a legendary companion beast. Furthermore, this silver-winged flying ant isn't an ordinary legendary. Zhou felt a little stifled, but he was already mentally prepared for the worst. He wasn't too disappointed. He dripped his blood again to restart the game. When Zhou saw the blood-colored avatar's stats, he couldn't help but widen his eyes. The other stats didn't change, but in the companion beast column, there was an additional silver-winged flying ant. It actually hatched. Zhou was overjoyed. He originally thought that there was no hope, but he never expected the silver-winged flying ant to appear in his pet column. He hurriedly read the silver-winged flying ant's stats carefully. He was still looking forward to it. Apart from its relatively weak constitution, it had almost no flaws. More importantly, with the silver-winged flying ant's eyes, it could be used as a flying mount. Also, with a legendary flying companion beast like the silver-winged flying ant, Zhou could attempt to kill the blood-colored Buddha Heart Lotus. However, when Zhou saw the silver-winged flying ant stats, he was taken aback. Silver-winged flying ant. Legendary, juvenile, legendary life providence. King of low altitudes talent skill. Silver-winged flash companion form. Wing strength, 12 speed. 14 constitution. 10 primordial energy. 11 ignoring everything else. Its stats were clearly too weak. At the legendary stage, it was considered the weakest type of legacy pet. It was inferior to the skeleton general and could even be said to be much weaker. The silver-winged flying ant shouldn't be this weak. Could it have something to do with it not being able to hatch? Does this juvenile state mean that the silver-winged flying ant still has a chance of maturing? Zhou thought to himself as he summoned the silver-winged flying ant. The blood-colored avatar's back lit up with silver patterns before the silver-winged flying ant flew out. The moment it appeared, Zhou immediately noticed something different. The hatched silver-winged flying ant was at least half the size of the silver-winged flying ant he had just killed. The silver-winged flying ant was originally bigger than a vigor ant, about the same size as a mutated vigor ant. But now it was only half the size of an ordinary vigor ant. Such a size definitely wasn't suitable for riding. It was just too small. Zhou made the silver-winged flying ant transform into its companion form. With a silver flash, 4 silver transparent wings appeared on the blood-colored avatar's back. However, the wings looked a little too small. They didn't match the blood-colored avatar's proportions. It made Zhou wonder if such tiny wings could carry the blood-colored avatar into flight. After giving it a try, the 4 silver wings flapped and actually managed to carry the blood-colored avatar into flight. Its speed was all right, and it was very agile. However, the wings couldn't fly high no matter how high it flew. The highest it could reach was about 10 meters. It couldn't fly any higher. Zhou seriously looked at the silver-winged flying ant's life providence and talent skill introduction. King of low altitudes, possesses powerful aerial control, but it can only fly at low altitudes. Is the king of low altitudes. Silver Wing Flash greatly increases flying speed for a short period of time. Silver Wing Flash was similar to what Zhou had imagined. As for the legendary king of low altitudes life providence, it left Zhou somewhat depressed. It couldn't fly high. From the looks of it, I can only hope that the silver-winged flying ant can grow up. Otherwise, with such stats, it probably won't be able to gain an advantage against any legendary creature, much less use it to kill the blood-colored Buddha Lotus. I just wonder how I can make the silver-winged flying ant mature, Zhou thought to himself. Chapter 51. Zhou chose yes out of curiosity. He had no idea how to feed it, nor did he know what companion beasts ate. Although people would use dimensional crystals to enhance companion beasts in real life to promote their evolution, the silver-winged flying ant situation was a little different. It wasn't evolving, but growing. You have 2 types of food, mutated skeleton ant and mutated vigor ant. Please choose the food you wish to feed. The food is actually a companion beast. Zhou found it extravagant. Any companion beast was worth half a year's worth of food for an ordinary person. Yet, this fellow wanted to eat companion beasts. Thankfully, the companion beasts that Zhou had grinded in-game couldn't be sold. For example, the mutated vigor ant was no longer of much use, so it wasn't a pity to feed it as food. Without any hesitation, Zhou chose the mutated vigor ant as food and fed it to the silver-winged flying ant. The mutated vigor ant that was chosen transformed into a stream of light and flew towards the silver-winged flying ant, injecting itself into its body. Apart from a silver-winged flying ant's body flashing with silver light in the beginning, there was nothing else. There weren't any changes except for the lack of hunger from before. Having killed the silver-winged flying ant, the ordinary vigor ants and mutated vigor ants couldn't stop the blood-colored avatar and skeleton ant Zhou controlled them to continue forward. He wanted to see what was behind the ant nest. The mutated skeleton ant was like a tank as it constantly slaughtered its way through the ant horde. However, there were so many of them that they were like a tidal wave. After nearly half an hour of killing, they had only advanced a few hundred meters. Seeing that the underground space was a lot wider, Zhou's heart stirred as he summoned the silver-winged flying ant in its companion form. 4 transparent wings appeared on the blood-colored avatar's back, allowing it to fly up. Although the blood-colored avatar could only fly about 10 meters high, it was enough to prevent the vigor ants from touching him. Furthermore, he was underground, so there wasn't any higher space for him to fly. In fact, it wasn't possible to fly too high. There were many ants crawling on the ceiling, so Zhou couldn't let the blood-colored avatar get too close. Thankfully, the legendary life providence of the silver-winged flying ant king of low altitudes was very useful. It allowed him to fly very nimbly at low altitudes, allowing him to easily dodge even if the vigor ants jumped at him from the ceiling. As he flew over, Zhou wanted to see if there were any other silver-winged flying ants or higher dimensional creatures. He was no longer satisfied with killing ordinary vigor ants. The deeper they went into the cave, the wider it became. Not long after, the game screen suddenly brightened up, and a huge underground space appeared in front of them. It was unimaginably large. In the underground space, there were many ant nests connected to each other. It was like a huge underground city. However, those ant nests were different from human buildings. They looked like stone balls of different sizes, and there were many huge stone strips connecting them, occupying nearly half of the underground space. Furthermore, there was a large swarm of black-winged flying ants surrounding the nest. Zhou could only vaguely see a huge stone ball-shaped nest in the middle of the nest. Furthermore, it emitted a strange golden glow. In the next second, Zhou saw a swarm of black-winged flying ants rush over. Without any room to struggle, the blood-colored avatar was surrounded and killed by the swarm of black-winged flying ants. Looking at the black screen, Zhou had no choice but to exit the game. It was unlikely that he would be able to explore Ant City for a long period of time. At the very least, I have to wait for the silver-winged flying ants to mature before I have a chance to explore Ant City. I wonder what the golden glow in the middle of the nest is. It doesn't look like an ant. Zhou had only taken a few glances, but as the screen was too far away, he couldn't see it clearly. Zhou happened to feel a little hungry, so he wanted to find something to eat. However, he realized that Li Xian's refrigerator was empty. The only thing was a half-eaten pizza that was already moldy and growing fur. Such a huge refrigerator is always open, but there's nothing inside. Isn't this a waste? Zhou decided to buy some food. There were still a few days before school reopened, so he had to eat for the time being. In a hotel suite in Luoyang City, Qiao Xiyuan was reading through a document carefully. The blonde, green-eyed woman, Liz, reported as she looked at the tablet in her hand. That youth's information is all here. His name is Zhou, a student of Guide High School. He just graduated this year, and his results were pretty good. He ranked second in the combat test and has already been admitted to Sunset College. His father's name is Zhou Lingfeng. He's a translator and has no background. However, interestingly, Zhou Lingfeng recently remarried, and his remarriage partner is the family's widow, Ouyang Lan, and Tianzua's mother, Ouyang Lan. Qiao Xiyuan was taken aback when he heard that as he finally looked up at Liz. Liz nodded with a smile. Yes, Overseer's mother. According to the intelligence, and Jing even specially transferred to Guide High School and fought with Zhou. After Qiao Xiyuan heard that, he pondered for a moment before staring at Liz and asking, "Does Zhou Lingfeng really have no background? I've already gotten someone to investigate. All 3 generations of his family have been clean. Zhou Lingfeng's father is a carpenter. He didn't like doing manual labor from a young age, and with his outstanding talent in languages, he chose to be a translator," Liz said as she looked at the information. Is it possible for Zhou Lingfeng to come into contact with those people overseas? Qiao Xiyuan asked in thought. I don't think so. Although Zhou Lingfeng has some talent in languages, he's frivolous and lazy. He's also lustful and often goes to places like bars. His cultivation is a mess, and he barely reached the legendary stage a few years ago. Such a person probably won't catch the fancy of those fellows overseas, right? Liz said, That's strange. Why would a woman like Ouyang Lan fancy such a man? Qiao Xiyuan frowned. Women don't like bad men. Perhaps Ouyang Lan likes a pretty boy like Zhou Lingfeng? Liz said. Qiao Xiyuan shook his head with certainty and said, Ouyang Lan is definitely not such a woman. Back when the family underwent a huge change and Datong died, and Tianzua inherited the family business at the age of 14. The items that the family has are coveted by countless important figures in the league. Even the family has many clansmen eyeing it. It can be said that there are internal and external problems. Who do you think Tianzua relied on to protect the family business to this day at such a young age? For a powerful woman like Ouyang Lan, do you think she would randomly choose an incompetent man, even if it's her second marriage? But we have already investigated very clearly. The Zhou family really doesn't have any background. Zhou Lingfeng is indeed a clean person, so it's unlikely he has anything to do with those overseas, Liz said. Don't underestimate those people overseas. Qiao Xiyuan thought for a moment before saying, Is Zhou staying with the family now? No, as he and Li Xian formed a team for the college entrance exam. They seemed to have a good relationship. Therefore, he stayed at Li Xian's place after coming to Luoyang. We failed to find him in Guide City because Li Xian had brought him to Luoyang ahead of us, Liz said. Chapter 52. Zhou Wen walked out of Li Xian's house and walked along the road. The environment wasn't bad, but there weren't any large supermarkets. Zhou Wen used his phone's GPS and realized that the nearest supermarket was about 1 kilometer away. Everything here is good, but it's too far to buy something. Zhou Wen wasn't afraid of walking, but he didn't wish to waste time on it. With the belief that wasting time was wasting life, Zhou Wen took out his mysterious phone and grinded the game Dungeons as he walked forward. Liz had received Qiao Siyuan's orders to take Zhou Wen back. As she had already sent people to keep an eye on Li Xian's house, it was easy for her to grasp Zhou Wen's movements. Upon seeing Zhou Wen come out, a subordinate whispered, "Director Liz, shall we capture him?" Liz rolled her eyes at them. "Zhou Wen's identity is special. We can't let anyone discover that we were the ones who took him away. Besides, there are surveillance cameras everywhere in the villa. Wouldn't everything be exposed if you just take him away? Then what should we do?" Liz waved her hand impatiently. "Go back first. Leave this to me." After chasing her subordinates away, Liz combed her wavy blonde hair and thought to herself, "With my charm, it's easy to settle a punk like him." Liz wasn't in a rush. She waited for Zhou Wen to walk out of the villa before starting her red, convertible sports car. After confirming that there weren't any surveillance cameras, she drove over. Liz deliberately stopped the car slightly in front of Zhou Wen. Then, she flicked her blonde hair, causing one of her shoulder straps to slide down, revealing her snow-white and round shoulders. She looked back at Zhou Wen with an extremely seductive gaze. "With a sports car and a beauty like me, that punk will immediately come forward to lick my boots." With this in mind, Liz's gaze and posture turned even more alluring as she wore a charming smile. But soon, Liz's smile froze on her face. Zhou Wen had his head lowered as he played with his phone. He didn't even look in her direction as he walked past the car, wasting the beautiful image she had painstakingly created. Useless NET. Liz gritted her teeth in hatred, but she still maintained her charming posture. She shouted in a voice that left men numb, "Sweetie, can you do me a favor?" As she spoke, Liz's eyes were filled with coquettish charm. She was already prepared to seduce him. Once Zhou Wen looked at her, she would immediately use her strongest electric and coquettish eyes to make him fall head over heels for her. Liz maintained her coquettish posture as she waited for Zhou Wen to turn back, but he didn't seem to hear her. He kept walking forward without any intention of turning back. "Sweetie, sweetie." Liz resisted the urge to grab him and beat him up as she pretended to shout coquettishly. However, Zhou Wen was engrossed in the game and ignored what Liz shouted. After all, he didn't hear his name, nor did he know that Liz was calling him. As she watched Zhou Wen walk further and further away, Liz finally realized that her battle plan had failed. That useless NET. Liz gritted her teeth in hatred as she felt indignant. She stepped on the accelerator and drove the sports car in front of Zhou Wen once again. This time, Liz didn't make the same mistake as before. She got out of the car and blocked Zhou Wen's path. She held onto the car with one hand and twirled her hair with the other. She struck an extremely enchanting pose, fully displaying her curvaceous figure. With his path blocked, Zhou Wen had no choice but to move his gaze away from the phone screen and look up at Liz. "Sweetie, can you do me a favor?" Liz asked with a blink. "I'll give you a taste of my charm first. I'll teach you a lesson later." Liz secretly swore inwardly as she prepared her next lines. As long as Zhou Wen spoke, she could invite him into the car and take him back. No. However, the 3 words that came out of Zhou Wen's mouth instantly made Liz swallow the words she had prepared. After saying that, Zhou Wen immediately lowered his head and stared intently at the screen. Then, he circled around Liz and walked past her. The corners of Liz's eyes twitched as flames nearly spewed out of her eyes. The tiny flames of anger nearly burst out of her great chest. "Darn, NET, how dare you ignore my charm? You're dead." Liz cursed inwardly as she slowly turned around, opened the car door, and sat back down. Vroom. The sports car's engine roared, just like the anger in Liz's heart. The red sports car was like a runaway horse as it charged at Joe 1, who was walking by the side of the road. Since the soft approach didn't work, Liz planned on using force. She planned on creating a traffic accident to get Joe 1 back first. Controlling the force and position of the car's impact wasn't difficult for a pinnacle legendary like Liz. If she wanted to break Joe 1's left leg, she wouldn't break his right leg. Originally, I wanted to let you go back with me comfortably, but you insisted on suffering. Liz stepped on the accelerator as strange patterns appeared on her skin. Faint wisps of light extended out from her body and enveloped the car. Liz's eyes shimmered with excitement. At such a close distance, with the car's speed and her control, and with Joe 1 being engrossed in the game, she didn't believe she would fail. Joe 1 didn't seem to react in time. He was still gaming when the sports car was very close to him. But at the instant the car hit the curb, Joe 1 finally reacted and looked at the sports car that was about to slam into him. It's too late to realize it now. Liz steeled her heart as she floored the accelerator and slammed straight into the car. Just as Liz thought she was about to succeed, she saw 4 transparent silver wings appear on Joe 1's back. A silver stream of light flashed across the silver wings as Joe 1's figure instantly retreated in a manner that defied the laws of physics, dodging the sports car's impact by a hair's breadth. Bam! The sports car didn't hit Joe 1 as it slammed into an electric pole by the side of the road. At the same time it snapped the pole, the front of the car caved in as shattered parts flew everywhere. Hey, is this the traffic police? There's an accident here. Joe 1 took out his ordinary phone to call the police. Liz glared at Joe 1 fiercely before forcefully starting the car and reversing it back onto the road. She sped off and vanished in a blink of an eye. What brand is that? It's of such good quality. It can still drive after such a collision? Joe 1 watched in surprise as the sports car disappeared from his video feed as a haze flashed across his eyes. Chapter 53. Who are these people? Logically speaking, since they are pursuing Jing Daoxian, they should be League officials or soldiers. However, would those people hit an ordinary League citizen with a car? Joe 1 frowned inwardly and thought, I have nothing to do with Jing Daoxian to begin with. Could it be that those people know about Jing Daoxian giving me the Lost Sutra and treat me as Jing Daoxian's accomplice? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the matter was serious. With that woman's actions, those people might do anything. Without buying anything, Joe 1 turned around and gave Li Xian a call. Joe 1, you actually took the initiative to call me. How rare, Li Xian said with a grin. There was a lot of noise coming from the phone. The sound of music and shouting was very loud. Find a place where we can talk. I have something to say to you, Joe 1 said. Wait, don't hang up. After a while, the other end of the line fell silent. Li Xian's voice sounded again. You can tell me what you want now. Is there any way for me to register for school now? After some thought, Joe 1 realized that the only way was to enter the college. The college after the dimensional storms was different from the universities of the past, especially a place like Sunset College. It had a deep military background, so even the government couldn't enter Sunset College to arrest him without going through legal procedures. Sunset College was under a semi-closed management. As long as he didn't go out, it was impossible for outsiders to hit him with a car like today. Furthermore, with the other party being so fearless, he might implicate Li Xian if he continued staying at Li Xian's place. No problem. I'll do it right away. Can you tell me what happened? If you can't say it, just pretend I didn't ask, Li Xian said. Joe 1 had no intention of hiding it. He recounted the entire story, only hiding the fact that Jing Daoxian had conversed with him and had forcefully given him the Lost Immortal Sutra. Holy sh*T, you actually met that devil Jing Daoxian? Li Xian exclaimed in excitement. I wish I hadn't met him. Just meeting him once caused such huge trouble, Joe 1 said with a bitter smile. Li Xian pondered for a moment before saying solemnly, Wait for me at home. I'll be right back. It's not convenient to talk on the phone. After hanging up, Not long after Zhou returned to Li Xian's house, Li Xian drove back. Li Xian closed the doors and windows before whispering to Zhou, if I'm not wrong, the person pursuing Jing Daoxian and the woman who hit you with a car should be from the Special Inspector Department. What kind of department is the Special Inspector General? Does it belong to the military or the police? Zhou had never heard of such a department. Neither. Li Xian shook his head and said, this department specializes in handling special matters. It has a lot of latitude, and many times it doesn't follow the prescribed procedures. It can be said that it's unscrupulous and has done many despicable things in private. There's a huge controversy in the League over the existence of this department. Many people who hate this department call the people in this department hyenas. Zhou expression was somewhat heavy. From the term hyena, he knew what kind of people this department was. Hyenas were animals that could be said to be the most sinister and filthy creatures in nature. In order to achieve their goals, they would do anything. Once they bit something, they wouldn't let go. Furthermore, they would appear in packs. It's right that you wish to enter school early. Although the Special Inspector General has great authority, it's impossible for them to brazenly violate the law. They can only act in private. After you enter school, it won't be that easy for them to do anything to you. However, there needs to be a solution to this matter. Otherwise, if they keep pestering you, something will happen sooner or later. Li Xian thought for a moment before saying, enter school first. I'll discuss it with my old man. You should be able to find some connections with the Special Inspector General. Find out why they are treating you this way. If it's not something too serious, think of a way to resolve this matter once and for all. Zhou didn't reject Li Xian's good intentions, but he didn't place all his hopes on him. Strength. I need more strength. If I can be as powerful as Jing Daoxian, why would I need to be afraid of the Special Inspector General? Zhou's eyes shimmered coldly. He could sense that the woman had no intention of taking his life. However, even if the Special Inspector Department was willing to let go of this matter, Zhou wouldn't let the matter rest that she had recklessly rammed into him with her car. Li Xian quickly completed the admission procedures. He said that he had nothing to do at home, so he entered school early with Zhou. However, when Li Xian mentioned this matter to Zhou, his expression turned odd. I originally wanted to use some connections to get us into the same dorm, but the school said that your dorm has already been assigned to you. It's at Four Seasons Garden. Is there something wrong with Four Seasons Garden? Zhou had roughly guessed that Four Seasons Garden was the dorm that Ouyang Lan had mentioned. However, he didn't know what Li Xian's odd expression meant. Four Seasons Garden is where special admissions students stay. It's different from ordinary students. You were admitted at the same time as me. You aren't a special admissions student, so why were you assigned to Four Seasons Garden? Li Xian chuckled and said, from the looks of it, your relationship with the Yin family isn't ordinary. Can you help me get a dorm in Four Seasons Garden? If you want to go, can't you just stay with me? However, how do you know that this matter has something to do with the Yin family? Zhou asked in puzzlement. Don't tell me you don't know. Sunset College was founded by the Yin family back then. Although it's a public school in name, in fact, the Yin family's words are more authoritative than the lead president's, Li Xian said. Is that so? Zhou never expected Sunset College to have such a relationship with the Yin family. You actually don't know? Then, are you related to the Yin family or not? Li Xian looked at Zhou in puzzlement. If Zhou really had a close relationship with the Yin family, how could he not know? Zhou felt that there was no need to hide it from Li Xian, so he said, Zhou Lingfeng is my dad. Li Xian spat out the mouthful of water he had just drunk as he stared at Zhou with widened eyes. You are Zhou Lingfeng's son? In that case, Ouyang Lan is your stepmother, and in Jing and in Tianzhua are your half-siblings? Holy *T, you have Yin family as your backer. With a ferocious person like Overseer backing you, why are you afraid of the Special Inspector Department? Once you stay with the Yin family, even if the minister of the Special Inspector Department comes, he wouldn't dare touch a finger of yours. They are them, and I am me. My surname isn't Yin, so I can't be considered family with them. I only wish that I can live in harmony with them. It's best if we mind our own business, Zhou said. That temper of yours is just too stubborn. If it were me, I'd act coquettishly to win Ouyang Lan's favor. When that happens, you can have anything you want, Li Xian joked. Chapter 54. I told you not to alert anyone and to secretly bring Zhouwen back. Yet, you actually hit him with your car. Have I been too lenient with you recently and made you forget the rules? Xiao Siyuan's tone was calm, but his eyes were cold. Liz's body trembled as she hurriedly got up and bowed. Minister, it was my fault. Thankfully, the family didn't notice. Please give me another chance. I'll definitely bring Zhouwen back. You didn't notice? Xiao Siyuan placed a document on the table and said indifferently, Take a look at this first. This is? Liz picked up the document suspiciously and was immediately alarmed when she saw the contents. How is this possible? That's impossible, right? Minister, is the information in here accurate? Xiao Siyuan glanced at Liz before saying slowly, I always felt that there was something wrong with Ouyang Lan and Zhou Lingfeng's marriage. I felt that it might have something to do with that matter. So, I especially got my teacher to help me check the family's candidate list. This is the result he gave me. Do you think it's accurate? It's a list teacher found, so it naturally can't be fake. The shock on Liz's face intensified. But wasn't the family's candidate in Jing? Why did it become Zhouwen? He has no blood relations with the family. He's not even half a son. How can the family give such a huge opportunity to an outsider? I have no idea why the family would give such an opportunity to an outsider, but one thing is certain. After Zhouwen was admitted to Sunset College, the family did change the name on the list from Jing to Zhouwen. And according to the agreement, the family only has one chance to change the list. Even if Zhouwen dies, it's impossible to change it to someone else. With that said, Xiao Siyuan stared at Liz with a burning gaze. Do you still believe that the family knows nothing about you hitting Zhouwen with your car? Liz immediately broke out into a cold sweat as she lowered her head. I'm guilty. Minister, please punish me. She knew very well how important Zhouwen was to the family. If the family didn't even know that such a person had been hit by a car in Luoyang, they would probably have been devoured to the point where not even their bones remained. Since you've only recently been transferred to the Special Inspector's Department and you're still unfamiliar with it, I'll let it pass this time. But don't let me see it again, Xiao Siyuan said. Minister, please give me another chance to make up for my mistakes, Liz pleaded. There's no need for the time being. Zhouwen has already entered Sunset College ahead of schedule. If there's no reasonable reason, it won't be that easy to invite him again. I have other arrangements. You don't have to worry about this matter, Xiao Siyuan said with a wave of his hand. Liz said with an odd expression, I really can't believe that the family would actually replace Zhouwen's name on the list. Even if Ouyang Lan was infatuated and was willing to give the opportunity to Zhouwen without regard for her biological daughter's opportunity, how could the family agree to it? How can Tianzhuo possibly agree? This opportunity belongs to the family. There's no need to waste time thinking about things you don't know. Just do what you need to do. You may leave. Xiao Siyuan waved his hand to get Liz to leave before picking up the document. As he read it, he muttered to himself, What is the family up to? How could such a great opportunity be given to an outsider so easily? Could it be that Ouyang Lan didn't want her biological daughter to take the risk, so she gave up this opportunity? However, within Jing's talent, the chances of her passing are rather high. It's not too risky. Jing Daoxian coincidentally met Zhouwen and stayed nearby for a period of time. Is this purely a coincidence? After Zhouwen and Li Xian completed the enrollment procedures, Li Xian didn't choose to stay in Four Seasons Garden with Zhouwen. All Zhouwen could do was take the dorm card Ouyang Lan had given him and enter the specially open garden-like area. There were rows of two-story buildings. The buildings were not big, and the layout was simple and bright. Each building had a small courtyard. The yard didn't have any walls and was only surrounded by a white wooden fence that was half the height of a person. One could clearly see the scenery of the neighboring row. 702. It should be this one. Zhouwen compared the dorm card and came in front of a small building. He looked around and realized that this was the last row of Four Seasons Garden. There were a total of 3 buildings in this row. His building was in the middle, and the one on the left didn't look like it was occupied. As for the one on the right, there were some flowers and plants placed in the yard. The soil was still moist, so it was likely occupied. Just as Zhou was about to push the door open, he heard the sound of the door opening from the right building. Then he saw a figure push the door open and walk out. And Jing? Zhou couldn't help but be taken aback when he saw the figure clearly. And Jing was also taken aback, clearly not expecting to meet Zhou here. However, in the blink of an eye, and Jing understood what had happened. She bit her lip and ignored Zhou as she left the yard. And Jing ignored him, and Zhou had no intention of getting close to her. The two tacitly brushed past each other as though they hadn't seen each other. After using his dorm card to enter the building, Zhou realized that it was indeed a good place. Although the layout and decorations were simple, it was very suitable for cultivation. It was even equipped with a personal strength measuring device and other equipment. A new beginning seems pretty good. After Zhou patrolled the entire building, he planned on buying some necessities. Although the building was well equipped, there were no personal items like blankets. Zhou still needed to buy them himself. Previously, it was Li Xian who had led him to the entrance of Four Seasons Garden. Now that he had walked out himself, he realized that Sunset College was ridiculously huge. Although he wasn't likely to get lost on campus, his phone's GPS wasn't very accurate, making him take some detours. Furthermore, he didn't know where the daily necessities were sold on campus. The more he walked, the more remote it became. Zhou wanted to ask for directions, but he realized that he was surrounded by dilapidated old buildings. They were likely abandoned old-school buildings. How can the GPS be so ridiculously wrong? Zhou looked at the map on his phone and felt somewhat helpless. Just as he was about to turn back, he heard voices coming from around the corner. I should ask for directions first. Zhou took a few steps forward, planning on finding the person who spoke and asking where the supermarket and the school was. Little May, you have to be good. You have to work hard in the future. Zhou heard a man's voice coming from around the corner again. Furthermore, he found the voice somewhat familiar, but he was momentarily unable to connect the voice to a specific person. As he pondered, Zhou turned the corner and saw a tower-like figure in the corner of a dilapidated building not far away. He was holding a tiny and adorable kitten that looked like it hadn't been weaned. His eyes were gentle and his face was brimming with a smile. However, even when he was smiling, his face still looked as ferocious as a devil's. It was terrifying. Gu Jian? Zhou was momentarily stunned. He really couldn't connect Gu Jian to the man in front of him who was carrying a kitten with a gentle smile. Chapter 55. Gu Jian placed the kitten to the side. Only then did Zhou see that there were 3 cats on the grass beside him. 2 were young and 1 was big. The 4 cats were clearly a family. The mother cat was sunbathing on the grass with the 3 kittens. There were 2 bowls by the side of the grass. One was filled with water, and the other was filled with cat food. It was obvious that these had been prepared by Gu Jian. After putting down the cat, Gu Dian's eyes immediately turned extremely cold. He stared at Zhou like a devil and said coldly, "If I hear any rumors outside, you're dead." With a ferocious face like that of a devil, coupled with his bone-chilling voice, Zhou would probably have some qualms if it were any other time. However, due to the image of Gu Jian lifting a kitten high up in front of him, Zhou couldn't bring himself to feel any sense of awe. "Don't worry, I'm not a talkative person," Zhou said. "That's for the best," Gu Jian said coldly. He ignored Zhou and bent down to put away the 2 bowls. After taking another glance at the 4 cats playing on the grass, he turned to leave. After taking a few steps, Gu Jian stopped and said without turning his head, "Also, don't attempt to harm them. Otherwise, you will also die." With that said, Gu Jian strode away. Li Xian said that not only does Gu Jian look ferocious, but he's also an extremely bad person. As long as he's given money, he's willing to do anything. From the looks of it, he might not be as bad as the rumors say. To be able to make an animal like a cat, who has its guard up, so close to him, even willing to let him get close to the kittens, perhaps he's not as ferocious as the rumors say. Zhou glanced at the 4 kittens and thought to himself, In this era, pets like dogs and kittens were no longer as favored as before. After all, they were only for ornamental purposes, but companion beasts possessed magical powers. People were more willing to spend money on companion beasts. Most of the precious pet dogs and cats in the past had become stray dogs and cats, no longer doted on by humans. Times had changed, and many things had changed. In the past, those figures who could leap onto roofs and vault over walls could become legends that were passed down by word of mouth by ordinary people. That was because very few humans had such abilities in the past. However, in this era, as long as one could advance to the legendary stage, lifting things wasn't difficult. Everyone could become a legendary figure like before. The legendary stage was no longer rare. As long as one cultivated hard, even humans with poor talent had a chance of advancing to the legendary stage in their 30s or 40s. However, it wasn't that easy to advance from the legendary stage to the epic stage. It required talent, primordial energy arts, resources, and other aspects to be stacked together. It wasn't something that could be achieved through hard work. After all, those who could be recorded in history and become figures that were basically existences that were close to mythical. In the past, when Zhou cultivated ascetic meditation, he had planned on advancing to the legendary stage while in college. Such a speed made him a genius among humans. During this period, Zhou had Ashad Dian and Zhou had Zhou Dian, one of Zhou of. Over this period of time, Zhou had repeatedly studied Lost Immortal Sutra and realized that it was very different from ordinary primordial energy arts. Typical primordial energy arts, such as Ash meditation, advance to the next realm by breaking one's shackles. With that shackle present, a human's strength, speed, constitution, and primordial energy were all locked. It was useless no matter how many supplements one ate, as they couldn't continue improving. Only by breaking the shackles would one's limits be unlocked. While one could continue improving, one could also obtain a life providence that was close to talent. It was also commonly known as the legendary life providence. However, after repeatedly studying Lost Immortal Sutra, Zhou didn't see any description related to breaking the shackles. Therefore, up to this point, Zhou still hadn't figured out how he could advance to the legendary stage with Lost Immortal Sutra. After finally finding a supermarket on campus and buying the daily necessities he needed, Zhou returned to his dorm to pack up. Then, he took out his phone and began grinding dungeons again. It was difficult for him to make any progress in Ant Nest in a short period of time, so Zhou chose to enter underground Buddha City. After grinding the Buddha Heart Lotus in the Lotus Pond, he didn't obtain a single companion beast. The mutated skeleton ant was devoured by the gigantic blood-colored Buddha Heart Lotus. Zhou controlled the blood-colored avatar to head to Small Buddha Temple. Before ascending the stone steps, Zhou made the blood-colored avatar activate primordial energy skill, heart meditation. The path in front of Small Buddha Temple was very strange. No matter how he walked, it was a dead end. Zhou didn't discover the reason behind it. Using heart meditation was a last resort. He only felt that heart meditation came from the Buddha Heart Lotus, so it might be of some use. To Zhou's pleasant surprise, the blood-colored avatar would suddenly die when it came to a spot where it could see Small Buddha Temple's plaque. This time, it didn't die and was even able to advance. Heart meditation is actually useful. Even Zhou was somewhat surprised. He controlled the blood-colored avatar to continue walking forward. Indeed, nothing happened along the way. However, heart meditation was a primordial energy skill. Using it required primordial energy. Heart meditation was a primordial energy skill that continuously expended primordial energy. It expended about 2 primordial energy every minute. As he ascended the stone steps, his primordial energy was finally drained when he was still a short distance away from Small Buddha Temple's entrance. Just as heart meditation stopped, the blood-colored avatar collapsed to the ground and died. The game screen also went black. Since he knew that heart meditation was useful, Zhou eagerly revived the blood-colored avatar and arrived in front of small Buddha temple's stone crevice. This time, after Zhou activated heart meditation, he controlled the blood-colored avatar to run at full speed towards small Buddha temple. However, the blood-colored avatar only reached a spot about 10 meters away from the entrance before its primordial energy was drained and it died again. With my current speed, the duration of heart meditation isn't enough for me to rush into small Buddha temple. Do I have to wait until I advance to the legendary stage and have sufficient primordial energy before I can use heart meditation to rush in? But I don't know how long it will take for me to advance to the legendary stage. Zhou thought again. For primordial energy skills like heart meditation that continuously expend primordial energy, some of them expend less primordial energy the higher the rank. I wonder if heart meditation is the same. Now, heart meditation is at rank 7. If I can get a rank 8 or 9 heart meditation, I might have a chance of rushing into small Buddha temple. Since he had nothing else to do, Zhou continued grinding the Buddha heart lotus at the lotus pond with the attitude of giving it a try, hoping to gain something. Chapter 56. With the silver-winged flying ant's wings, Zhou flew directly above the lotus pond to fight the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus. Although he died numerous times, it wasn't completely without results. Zhou was already rather familiar with the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus's few moves. They were all obtained at the cost of many lives. Although he was temporarily unable to slay it, he had thought of ways to kill it. However, he was lacking in strength, preventing him from realizing those methods for the time being. Zhou, get up quickly. Thankfully, we enrolled in school early. Otherwise, we might have missed out on a great show. Li Xian called early in the morning. Zhou put down his phone and stretched his back in exhaustion before asking, "What's the show? Didn't I tell you before that the legendary students in the school are buying powerful flying companion beasts to slay the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus? Someone will be taking action today. Let's go take a look," Li Xian said. All right. Zhou also wanted to see a battle at the legendary stage. He got out of bed, washed up, and went out. He met Li Xian at the entrance of Four Seasons Academy. Li Xian had clearly been waiting for some time. When he saw Zhou come out, he pulled him towards Ancient Path and said, "Let's go quickly. We won't miss the exciting show if we're late." From Li Xian, Zhou learned that the person who wanted to slay the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus was a famous third-year senior at Sunset College, Yang Lai. He was a powerful figure who had already advanced to the legendary stage. It was said that in order to slay the blood-colored Buddha heart lotus, he had spent a huge sum of money to buy a legendary companion egg. After thinking of a way to quickly hatch it, he immediately rushed to the lotus pond. By the time the duo entered underground Buddha City and rushed to the lotus pond, they discovered that it was already surrounded by many students. Clearly, they had received the news and were here to watch Yang live battle the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. "Brother Xian, Brother Wen, you are here." Just as the duo arrived, a boy ran over. "Sumian too, you also applied for Sunset College?" Zhou recognized the person. Sumian scratched his head in embarrassment, as though there was something he couldn't say. By the side, Li Xian scolded him jokingly. "Rascal, just say it. It's not like it's embarrassing. In fact, Sumian too should have enrolled a year ago, but to help me with the exam, he delayed it by a year." Sumian chuckled. "Brother Xian, a genius like you doesn't need my help. I was ignorant in the past." As the trio conversed, they suddenly heard a commotion nearby. "Jing is here. The In from the In family? That Jing from the In family? TSK, you really live up to your reputation. A great beauty. I heard that she advanced to the legendary rank at the age of 13. She's extremely talented and comes from a prestigious family. She's rich, talented, and beautiful. She's really loved by everyone." Zhou traced the student's gazes, and indeed, he saw Jing riding a white horse. However, the white horse didn't have wings, so it wasn't a white-winged flying horse. Dragon Yang one was. Ling, King, Yang King. Only then did Zhou see Yang Lai's looks clearly. He was more than one. 8 meters tall with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He looked very handsome, and there was a black cheetah beside him. However, the black cheetah had an eye on its forehead, making it look extremely demonic. And Jing, you came just in time. I'll slay that blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus today. No matter what drops, I'll give it to you as a congratulatory gift, Yang Lai said in high spirits. Many students revealed teasing smiles when they heard Yang Lai. Yang Lai was clearly expressing his goodwill to Jing. Li Xian said disdainfully, although the Yang family has some reputation in Luoyang, it's ultimately not one of the upper class. Furthermore, many of the Yang family's businesses rely on the family's influence in Luoyang. That punk, Yang Lai, is probably up to no good by sucking up to Jing. However, his scheming will probably go to waste. No matter how blind the family is, they won't think highly of the Yang family. I think in all of Luoyang, only you are qualified to match Jing, Su Mianda said with a chuckle. Li Xian spat and said, Jing is very proud and has a bad temper. She's cold and boring, so it's useless no matter how beautiful she is. Only a fool would want to marry such a woman. With that said, Li Xian glanced at Zhou Wen and said with a mysterious smile, Besides, I understand that a friend's sister isn't to be taken advantage of. Zhou Wen couldn't be bothered to defend himself, as he pretended not to hear him. Su Mianda didn't know of Zhou Wen's relationship with the family, so he didn't understand what Li Xian meant. He was momentarily at a loss as he looked at the duo in puzzlement. Jing sat on the white horse without any intention of getting off. She said calmly, I don't need a gift. Besides, you can't slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Yang Lai wasn't angry when he heard that. He said with a laugh, Then, let's make a bet. If I slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, you will accept my gift. How about that? No, Jing said without any hesitation. Are you afraid of losing? Yang Lai said provocatively. You can't slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, so the bet won't stand. There's no need for it. After Jing said that, she ignored Yang Lai and rode the white horse to the side of the lotus pond. Yang Lai felt a little embarrassed, but Jing's status was just too special. He didn't dare flare up at her. All right, I'll show you if I can slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, Yang Lai said as he shook his arms. Immediately, 2 companion beasts were summoned by him. These were 2 silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagles, but they were much larger than the average eagle. Their wingspans were over 12 meters long, and with a flap of their wings, they flew through the air like a streak of golden light, circling above the lotus pond like 2 golden clouds. The silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagles streaked across the lotus pond as their claws extended out like phantoms, instantly grabbing a Buddha heart lotus. Silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagles. There are actually 2 of them. This fellow sure is willing to go all out, Li Xian said with a twitch of his lips. The silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagle was a rare legendary companion beast. Such a companion beast could only be found in the Heaven Lake dimensional zone of the Heavenly Mountain. However, there were many dimensional zones near the Heavenly Mountain, so it wasn't easy to reach the Heaven Lake. Furthermore, the number of silver-eyed golden-feathered eagles was relatively small. Furthermore, they lived in a place like Half Cliff that was out of sight. Killing them to drop a companion egg wasn't an easy task. If one's luck wasn't good, even an epic expert would be useless. Seeing the students looking at the pair of silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagles enviously, Yang Lai felt a little smug. Without any hesitation, he ordered a pair of eagles to attack the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. The 2 silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagles flew at a low altitude towards the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Sensing the threat, the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus spat out 20 to 30 blood-colored lotus seeds that enveloped the 2 eagles. Seeing that the blood-colored lotus seeds were about to hit the 2 golden eagles, the 2 eagles didn't seem to have any intention of dodging. They were still flying forward, but their feathers were emitting a golden halo. It was as if the golden feathers on their bodies were glowing. Bam! Chapter 57. as expected of a silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagle. It's indeed extraordinary. From the looks of it, this blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus will likely be slain by that punk, Yang Lai, Li Xian said. Zhou shook his head and said softly, "That might not be the case. The two silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagles won't be able to slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus." Zhou research on the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus wasn't something these students could compare with. He knew very well how powerful the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus was. It was impossible to slay it with two legendary flying companion beasts. It was unknown if it was intentional or not, but Jing, who was standing by the pool, turned her head to glance at him when he said that. Just as Li Xian was about to ask why, he suddenly saw an anomaly in the lotus pond. A silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagle that had already rushed in front of the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus was swallowed by the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's petals. The other silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagle's glowing claws were about to touch the petal, but the blood-colored Buddha pattern on the petal emitted a blood-colored halo. The seemingly delicate petal clashed with the golden-feathered eagle's claws, but it was unharmed. By the time the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus opened its petals once again, the swallowed, silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagle was only left with a skeleton. Furthermore, the bones were rapidly melting. Many of the students watching the battle drew a cold gasp. The blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus was able to devour the legendary gold-ranked, silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagle and instantly corrode it. For it to be able to withstand the silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagle's primordial energy skill, golden-like claw, was terrifying. Flower-type dimensional creatures typically had weaker physiques. Among dimensional creatures of the same level, their physiques were at the bottom. However, this blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus was able to withstand a powerful legendary primordial energy skill like Golden Claw. It was just too terrifying, completely subverting the average person's understanding of flower-type creatures. Yang Lai's expression was extremely ugly. He didn't dare to order the silver-eyed golden feather eagle to attack again. He hastily summoned the surviving eagle back. All the students looked at the Buddha heart lotus with fear and greed. The blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus clearly had more than one primordial energy skill. If a companion beast dropped, they could have a companion beast with multiple energy skills. However, the drop rate of companion beasts was low to begin with. Furthermore, even Yang Lai's two silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagles had failed. No student could kill it. How do you know that the two silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagles aren't a match for the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus? Only now did Li Xian have the chance to ask the question on his mind. Of course I saw with my eyes. Zhou shrugged his shoulders and prepared to leave. In a short period of time, probably no student could slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. This lotus flower was likely a top-notch existence at the legendary stage. Unless they had a stronger companion beast or targeted its weakness, even a siege wouldn't be of much use against it. Brother One, since you can tell that the silver-eyed golden-feathered eagles aren't a match for the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, does that mean that you have the means to kill it? Su Miantu's eyes lit up as he asked Zhou. Su Miantu wasn't a bad person, but he couldn't control his mouth. He didn't lower his voice, allowing the people beside him to hear him. Yang Lai was already in a bad mood, so when he heard Su Miantu's words, he turned his head and saw Li Xian, Su Miantu, and an unfamiliar youth. Yang Lai naturally knew what kind of people Li Xian, the #1 foppish scion in Luoyang, and the adopted son of the Li family, Su Miantu were. It could even be said that he despised them. Yang Lai often thought that if he were Li Xian, his accomplishments wouldn't be limited to this with the Li family's resources. Su Miantu's unintentional words sounded like a mockery to Yang Lai. To be able to tell at a glance that the golden-feathered eagles aren't the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's match, you sure have good eyes. I wonder how I should dress you? Yang Lai held back his anger as he sized up Zhou and asked. Although he was angry, he didn't wish to offend a student with a powerful background. After all, the students of Sunset College were the elites of the East District. Many of them had powerful backgrounds. Before Zhou said a word, Su Miantu cheered for him. Zhou came in second at Guide City's combat test. He's the #1 genius of Guide High School. He's brother Xian, and I'm buddies. Sun Yintu wasn't fooling around, but he wanted to use this opportunity to make Zhou famous, so as to let the students of Sunset College know of his existence. There were many benefits to doing so. In the future, when teams entered dimensional zones to complete missions assigned by the school, powerful students would be willing to team up with Zhou. If not, why would those powerful students be willing to team up with Zhou when no one knew who he was? Having a strong team up was a rather common mentality in today's society. However, upon hearing Sun Yintu say that, it wasn't only Yang Lai. Even the other students looked at Sun Yintu and Zhou mockingly. The #1 genius of a certain high school, or the #1 student of a certain city's college entrance exam combat test. There were too many students with such titles in Sunset College. Furthermore, Zhou had only entered Sunset College as second in the combat test. They weren't even interested in knowing who was first, much less second. If he were first in a place like the capital, people might pay attention. However, a tiny place like Guide City had nothing worth paying attention to. When Yang Lai heard that Zhou had come in second in the combat test in Guide City, he knew that Zhou likely didn't have a powerful background. Otherwise, he would have gotten first in the combat test. Only the first in a city could receive special privileges and resources from Sunset College. This was also one of the reasons why Li Xian wanted to get first. Second? That's really impressive. Yang Lai quipped. In that case, I'd like to hear what you have to say. How do you plan on killing the blood-patterned Buddha, Heart Lotus? The other students could naturally tell that Yang Lai was mocking Zhou and Sun Yintu. They were only freshmen who had just matriculated and were only at the mortal stage. They hadn't even come close to the legendary stage. So how could they have the right to kill a top legendary creature like the blood-patterned Buddha, Heart Lotus? Sun Yintu couldn't tolerate it as he curled his lips and said disdainfully, "Are you dumb, or do you think we are? Why should we tell you the solution we came up with?" Ever since the battle in Guide Ancient City, Sun Yintu was truly convinced by Zhou. From his point of view, Zhou definitely had a way to kill the blood-patterned Buddha, Heart Lotus. It was only natural, so he naturally couldn't tell others the method. Chapter 58. Sun Yintu didn't dare make the decision himself as he cast his gaze at Zhou, his eyes filled with encouragement. Zhou smiled bitterly inwardly. Sun Yintu thought too highly of him. He didn't have the ability to slay the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus, so all he could do was shake his head at Sun Yintu. Sun Yintu was extremely confident in Zhou, believing that he was being humble. He continued encouraging him. "Brother One, you can't be too humble in a place like Sunset College. You have to showcase your absolute strength. Only then will you have a chance of obtaining more resources." Zhou felt a little depressed. He did wish to slay the blood-patterned Buddha, Heart Lotus, but he really couldn't do it. Upon seeing Zhou's troubled look, Yang Lai sneered. "To showcase your strength, you need to have the strength to do so. Otherwise, it'll be a joke." With that said, Yang Lai ignored Sun Yintu and turned to walk towards Enjing. From Yang Lai's point of view, he would only be embarrassing himself if he continued tangling with people like Sun Yintu, Li Xian, and Zhou. Although Sun Yintu was a little infuriated, there was nothing he could do since Zhou didn't say a word. All he could do was watch the contemptuous Yang Lai turn to leave. Yang Lai came in front of Enjing and said in a gentlemanly manner, "I lost the bet. If there's anything you need me to do, I'll definitely do my best. However, there's something I don't understand. Why do you know that the silver-eyed, golden-feathered eagle isn't the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus's match? Could it be that you have already fought the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus?" "First, I said that there was no meaning to the bet. There's no need for you to do anything. What you can do, I can do it myself. What I can't do, you can't do it either. Second, a person who truly understands doesn't need to fight to know who's stronger." Enjing wore a calm expression, but every word she said was venomous. Zhou suspected that with Enjing's venomous personality, many people would probably want to beat her up if she wasn't born into the family. Yang Lai's expression was indeed ugly, alternating between livid and pale. After all, he was a student who wasn't even in his 20s. He lacked restraint and thick skin. Well said. Sumienta seized the opportunity and naturally wouldn't let it go. He cheered loudly, but was met with a fierce glare from Yang Lai. And Jing ignored him and rode past Yang Lai on the white horse, heading for Zhou Wen. "Your sister is coming over," Li Xian whispered as he nudged Zhou Wen with his elbow. Zhou Wen shook his head, indicating for Li Xian not to speak nonsense. However, before he could say a word, and Jing had already arrived in front of him on a white horse. When Yang Lai and the other students saw Jing in front of Zhou Wen, they cast their gazes over, unsure what she wanted. "Are you confident of killing the blood-patterned Buddha, Heart Lotus?" And Jing stared into his eyes and asked. "There's definitely no problem. And Jing, cooperate with us to slay the blood-patterned Buddha, Heart Lotus. Brother Wen guarantees you that you won't be disappointed." Sumienta didn't know of Jing's relationship with Zhou Wen, so he imagined that Jing was interested in him. If Zhou Wen performed well, he might be able to win her heart. Furthermore, this beauty's family background was extraordinary. She was the daughter of Luoyang's family. In Luoyang, she was like a princess. "Right, Brother Wen?" Sumienta nudged Zhou Wen and signaled to him with his eyes behind Jing's back, hinting for him to perform well. Although Zhou Wen knew that Sumienta had good intentions, he really couldn't do it. Furthermore, he only wished to game in peace. He had no intention of being in the limelight here, nor did he wish to have any entanglements with Jing. "You sure are daring. If Jing wanted to slay the blood-patterned Buddha, Heart Lotus, what would you have to do with her?" Yang Lai already hated Sumienta to begin with, so he couldn't help but mock him. He vented all the anger he had suffered at Jing's hands on Sumienta. A dog is a dog, forever relying on its master's influence. However, you should at least see clearly if that's your master. The moment Yang Lai said that, it wasn't only Sumienta. Li Xian and Zhou Wen's expressions changed as well. Li Xian said coldly, "Yang Lai, who are you calling a dog? Say it again if you have the guts." Yang Lai sneered. "Who in Luoyang City doesn't know that your patriarch likes to raise God's son? To put it nicely, he's a God's son, but to put it bluntly, he's a lackey raised by your Li family. This is common knowledge. What did I say wrong?" Li Xian's eyes turned cold. Just as he was about to take action, he was held back by Sumienta. Sumienta wasn't angry as he looked at Yang Lai and said with a chuckle, "That's right. I'm a dog of the Li family. Furthermore, I'm proud to be a dog of the Li family. I also enjoy the Li family's favor, unlike a certain person who wishes to be the family's dog. Unfortunately, the family can't even be bothered to look at him. There's no point mentioning someone who's inferior to a dog." Sumienta's words hit Yang Lai's sore spot. The Yang family did wish to rely on the family, but the family's attitude was somewhat ambiguous. They had never truly accepted the Yang family. Therefore, Yang Lai's expression changed drastically when he heard that. His gloomy face nearly froze as he stared intently at Sumienta, a hint of killing intent flashing in his eyes. "Does the Li family's dog only know how to bark? If you're that capable, slay the blood-patterned Buddha, Heart Lotus, as you said. Otherwise, don't bark here," Yang Lai said with a cold expression. Yang Lai said with a cold expression. If not for everyone watching, he wished he could immediately kill Sumienta. Sumienta was just about to retort when he felt a hand press down on his shoulder. Then, he heard Zhou Wen say softly, "If you want to kill the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus, let's do it together. Brother Wen, can I really do it?" Sumienta was overjoyed as he hurriedly asked. Zhou Wen nodded slightly and said seriously, "As long as you aren't afraid of sacrificing your companion beast." Sumienta had gotten into a conflict with Yang Lai because of Zhou Wen, so Zhou Wen naturally couldn't sit back and watch Sumienta be humiliated by Yang Lai. However, it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision to kill the blood-patterned Buddha, Heart Lotus. It was true that Zhou Wen couldn't kill the blood-patterned Buddha, Heart Lotus in-game, but this wasn't the game. He didn't need to face the blood-patterned Buddha, heart lotus alone. He still had Su Miantu and Li Xian to help him. Zhou Wen had carefully considered the companion beasts he, Li Xian, and Su Miantu had. If he did it well and didn't make any mistakes, with his understanding of the blood pattern Buddha heart lotus, he should be able to slay it. There's nothing to be afraid of. Let's do it. Su Miantu turned to Yang Lai and said loudly, "Did you hear that, Yang? We'll slay it for you to see. Open your eyes wide and learn well. Don't say that we didn't teach you. I'll be waiting." Yang Lai sneered. Chapter 59. Li Xian and Zhou Wen were the first batch of people to discover the blood pattern Buddha heart lotus. Zhou Wen was thinking of ways to kill it in-game, while Li Xian wasn't idle either. He was also trying his best to obtain a legendary flying companion beast to slay it. However, there were relatively few legendary companion beasts that could fly. It was even harder to find strong ones. Furthermore, Li Xian was only at the mortal stage. He needed more time and effort to incubate legendary companion beasts than at the legendary stage. Up to now, Li Xian had only hatched a legendary skycock. Su Miantu was also at the mortal stage. Furthermore, he didn't have the invincible Khanate divine art, so he couldn't incubate a legendary companion beast. However, he had always been with Li Xian and had helped out when Jiang Hao betrayed him. Therefore, Li Xian gave a mortal dragon-scaled turtle companion egg to Su Miantu. Although the dragon-scaled turtle was only at the mortal stage, it lived in the Black Dragon Swamp and had extremely strong resistance to corrosive liquids. The dragon-scaled turtle was also prepared by Li Xian to kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. It was perfect for Su Miantu to control. Zhou Wen was aware of this situation. After calculating all the companion beasts the trio had, he was confident that they could join forces to kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. To kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, apart from needing a companion beast to do battle, we also need to enter the lotus pond personally. Only then will we have a 100% chance of killing it. Are you sure you want to enter the lotus pond? Zhou Wen looked at Su Miantu and Li Xian and very seriously confirmed it. Humans strive for dignity, Buddhas strive for incense. I'm definitely killing the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, Su Miantu said loudly. Zhou Wen, how confident are you? Li Xian asked as he stared at Zhou Wen. If all of you follow my instructions, there's a 100% chance of success. However, the three of you have to work together without any mistakes, or it will be extremely dangerous. It's especially so for Miantu, who's controlling the dragon-scaled turtle. There can't be any slip-ups, or both of us will be in danger, Zhou Wen said to Su Miantu. Don't worry. Even if I die, I absolutely won't let anything happen to you, Su Miantu said as he patted his chest. All right, let's do it. Li Xian and Zhou Wen exchanged looks and nodded. Then let's begin. Listen to my instructions. Mian 2, release the dragon-scaled turtle. Zhou Wen whispered his plan to the two. The trio made their preparations as Su Miantu released the dragon-scaled turtle. A turtle the size of a small boat appeared above the lotus pond. Not only did it have a turtle shell, but it also had black scales on it. It looked extremely odd. Typical companion beasts would immediately be corroded into a pile of bones when they touched the lotus pond water. However, the dragon-scaled turtle was completely fine. It floated in the lotus pond like a black boat. Su Miantu and Li Xian jumped onto the turtle's back. Just as Zhou Wen was about to board it, he suddenly heard a cold voice. Good intentions might not necessarily lead to good things. Sometimes, good intentions can even kill. Zhou Wen turned his head and saw Jing sitting on the white horse with a cold expression. She was the one who had said those words. Zhou Wen glanced at Jing and smiled at her before turning to get on the turtle's back. The dragon-scaled turtle tore through the pond water and green lotus leaves as it rapidly approached the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. When it was about 10 meters away from the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, Zhou Wen got Su Miantu to stop the dragon-scaled turtle. Miantu, stay here to provide support for us. Make sure to constantly pay attention to Li Xian's landing spot. Follow the plan and make sure nothing goes wrong, Zhou Wen exhorted Su Miantu. Brother Wen, don't worry. As long as I'm not dead, I'll definitely not let anything happen to you. Sumyinda patted his chest as a guarantee. All right. Zhou nodded and looked at Li Xian. Follow the plan. Li Xian responded and summoned his legendary companion beast, the Sky Conch. The Sky Conch resembled a conch, but it had a pair of wings. Its body was about the size of a beetle, and it was very balanced in midair. Although its flying speed was very slow, its advantage was that it could glide in the sky for extended periods of time without needing to land. A legendary Sky Conch? How is that possible? Isn't Li Xian at the mortal stage? How can he incubate a legendary Sky Conch? Among the students on the shore, someone immediately recognized the Sky Conch and couldn't help but exclaim, "Isn't it too early for all of you to be alarmed?" Li Xian chuckled as he summoned the Black Knight and Jade-Eyed White Tiger in their companion forms. The Black Knight transformed into an armor that enveloped Li Xian's body. As for the Jade-Eyed White Tiger, it transformed into a tiger soul saber that shimmered with a cold luster. The saber's hilt had a gem that resembled a tiger's eye embedded in it. Black Knight and Jade-Eyed White Tiger are both legendary companion beasts. Heavens! Isn't Li Xian at the mortal stage? What's going on? Is this fellow really that preposterous scion of the Li family? The students widened their eyes as they looked at Li Xian in disbelief. Li Xian felt a little smug. Dressed in black armor and wielding the tiger soul saber, he stepped on the Sky Conch and flew towards the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus in a haughty manner. In contrast, Zhou paled in comparison. He summoned the mutated skeleton ant and stood on its back. Without any weapons or armor, the skeleton ant walked across the water surface towards the other side of the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. Miantu, pay more attention to Li Xian. Make sure he doesn't fall into the water, Zhou exhorted Sumyintu. Don't worry, brother one, Sumyintu said as he patted his chest. Zhou didn't say another word as the mutated skeleton ant and Sky Conch flanked the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. As for Li Xian's progress, he was faster than Zhou. Zhou seemed to be deliberately lagging behind. Bam! More than 10 blood-colored lotus seeds shot out at Li Xian, instantly enveloping him and the Sky Conch, sealing off all his paths of retreat. Li Xian roared as he slashed at the blood-colored lotus seeds with a tiger soul saber. The saber was so fast that it cleaved the blood-colored lotus seeds into two before they could explode. When the two halves of the blood-colored lotus seeds flew more than a meter away, they suddenly exploded. Is that really the Li family's foppish third young master, Li Xian? Li Lai watched in astonishment as Li Xian unleashed his might. He had cleaved apart the blood-colored lotus seeds with his saber and charged at the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. And while Li Xian was attracting the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's attacks, Zhou took the opportunity to order the mutated skeleton ant to charge at the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. When he was less than 3 meters away from the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus, Zhou ordered the mutated skeleton ant to leap up. And at that moment, the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus opened its petals to devour the mutated skeleton ant. If the mutated skeleton ant had been any slower, Zhou and the mutated skeleton ant would have been devoured. Now, Zhou roared. Without any hesitation, Li Xian leaped off the Sky Conch and cleaved at the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus with both hands. The tiger soul saber emitted a blinding white saber beam that instantly slashed at the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's petals. The blood-colored Buddha patterns on the petals emitted a red halo in an attempt to withstand the tiger soul saber's attack. However, the tiger soul saber beam was just too sharp. Together with Li Xian's saber elemental primordial energy skill, the tiger soul saber sliced through the petals. Chapter 60. Li Xian had used up all his strength to tear through the Buddha pattern petals. Furthermore, he was unable to dodge in midair. The Sky Conch's flying speed was just too slow, so it couldn't keep up with Li Xian's rhythm. It was still gliding at a high altitude, and the direction it was gliding in wasn't where Li Xian was. Suddenly, a fist appeared beneath Li Xian's feet, striking his soles. It was none other than Zhou when flying over. Li Xian exerted strength with his feet and stomped on Zhou Wen's fist, using the force to soar into the air. Zhou Wen also used the force of his stomp to rapidly descend. The two of them dodged the toad's poisonous water arrows simultaneously. Li Xian used the momentum to reach the lotus platform and cleaved at the toad's head. With a flash, Li Xian retreated and leaped out of the lotus platform. Bam! The toad exploded like a bomb, sending poisonous water splattering in every direction, enveloping a large area. It was as though thousands of arrows were fired simultaneously. Li Xian was in midair and was powerless to dodge. However, the sky conch that had been flying all this while happened to fly over and block Li Xian, blocking the poisonous water that spewed at him. Zhou Wen landed on the mutated skeleton ant's back and leaped up once again, flying back dozens of feet to dodge the poisonous water splatter. The poisonous water was extremely terrifying. The sky conch's body was instantly corroded by the poisonous water like snow touching burning charcoal. With a tragic cry, it plummeted into the pool. By the time Zhou Wen landed, the mutated skeleton ant had already stopped at his feet. However, Li Xian had nowhere to use as his body plummeted straight into the pool. As for the dragon-scaled turtle that was supposed to be there to receive Li Xian, it was still a distance away from Li Xian due to Su Miantu's flustered instructions. It looked like it wouldn't be able to make it in time. Zhou Wen had just landed on the mutated skeleton ant's back when he saw this scene. It was already too late for him to order the mutated skeleton ant to rush over. He stomped hard on the mutated skeleton ant's back and flew towards the plummeting Li Xian. At the instant his back touched the pool, Zhou Wen pulled him up. However, Zhou Wen's leap was limited after all. Soon, he began plummeting. Miantu, what are you waiting for? Quickly provide support. Li Xian, who was being pulled by Zhou Wen, shouted at the nearby Su Miantu. Su Miantu watched as the duo began plummeting. He was only about 3 to 4 meters away from them. As long as he got the dragon-scaled turtle to speed up, he would be able to reach out and pull the duo. But he stood there without moving, gritting his teeth and not saying a word. The veins on his forehead throbbed, but in the end, he didn't do anything. Su Miantu, why? Li Xian wore a nasty expression. At this point, how could he not tell that Su Miantu was deliberately scamming him and Zhou Wen? From instigating Yang Lai in the beginning to leaving him in the lurch, everything was done deliberately by Su Miantu. The only person who could do this was Su Miantu, who Li Xian viewed as a confidant and knew everything about Li Xian. However, there was nothing Li Xian could do. All he could do was stare intently at Su Miantu as the duo fell into the pool. There were exclamations from ashore. After all, they were still students. Even if they didn't like Zhou Wen and Li Xian, they didn't wish for them to die. I was forced into a corner. Don't blame me. Just as Li Xian and Zhou Wen were about to fall into the pool, Su Miantu said with a ferocious expression. However, he didn't make a sound. Am I really such a failure as a person? Li Xian, who had been staring at him, understood what he was saying from the shape of his lips. He couldn't help but feel disheartened. Jiang Hao and Su Miantu, whom he thought of as good friends and brothers, had betrayed him one after another. It left him disheartened. Just as Zhou Wen and Li Xian were about to fall into the water, 2 beams of light, one white and one silver, flashed above the lotus pond. Silver light swirled behind Zhou Wen as 4 transparent silver wings appeared behind him. They rapidly flapped and pulled him and Li Xian out of the water, quickly escaping danger. Impossible. Why do you have a flying companion beast? Su Miantu was alarmed and afraid when he saw Zhou Wen flying in midair. His face contorted. Zhou Wen landed on the dragon-scaled turtle's back with Li Xian in tow. He looked at Su Miantu and said, I've given you multiple chances, but unfortunately you still did it. You suspected me all this time? That's why you deliberately hid the fact that you have a flying companion beast? Su Miantu glared at Zhou Wen in shock and anger. If that wasn't the case, how would I know if you really treat me as a friend? Zhou Wen said indifferently, I'm a cold person by nature. I don't know how to treat others well. When others treat me well, I also suspect that they have ulterior motives. Although I also wish that you really treat me as a friend. The facts prove that this world is as cruel and heartless as I imagined it to be. With that said, Zhou glanced at the lotus pond beside him. He saw a beautiful girl with a pair of white wings floating in midair. She was beautiful and holy, and it was none other than the legendary angel companion beast. This angel companion beast appeared above the lotus pond almost at the same time Zhou summoned the silver-winged flying ant. Thank you. Zhou looked at Jing, who was riding on the white horse. He had understood Jing's hint, but he feigned ignorance because he wanted to test Sumian too. Furthermore, with the angel companion beast appearing, even if Zhou didn't like Jing, he felt that he should thank her. I was afraid that you wouldn't die and wanted to stab you. From the looks of it, there's no chance now, Jing said with a deadpan expression. Jing said expressionlessly as she extended her hand to summon the angel companion beast back. She rode the white horse and left. Sumian too, give me a reason to let you live, Li Xian said coldly as he stared at Sumian too. Brother Xian, I'm sorry. I was really forced. It was your second brother who forced me to do so. Please spare me. Sumian plopped to his knees and hugged Li Xian's leg as he pleaded. You once risked your life for me. I can spare your life, but you didn't only cause my death. There's also Zhou. Your life isn't enough to make up for 2 lives. Li Xian kicked Sumian away and turned his back to Sumian. Scram. If you can leave Luoyang alive, I'll spare your life. Sumian's expression turned ashen. He was from a Li family and knew how powerful the Li family was. As long as Li Xian refused to spare him, there was no way he could leave Luoyang alive. Feeling despair, Sumian's eyes flashed with hatred. He suddenly used all his strength to lunge at Li Xian, who had his back facing him. He roared ferociously, "Then let's die together." Just as Sumian was about to lunge at Li Xian, who had his back facing him, dodged Sumian's lunge as though he had eyes on the back of his head. Sumian couldn't stop himself as he charged straight into the lotus pond. Chapter 61. Due to Sumian's death, Zhou and Li Xian were investigated by the school, but they were quickly released. Inside the dormitory, Zhou leaned back in his chair and asked Li Xian, "What kind of person was your second brother?" Li Xian casually sat on the floor and held a can of beer. He took a swig and slowly swallowed it before saying, "Our family has a total of 3 brothers. Eldest brother, second brother, and I. Eldest brother was a genius. He was good at everything. He was publicly recognized as a super genius who could match in Tianzhua in Luoyang City. He was the most outstanding talent of our Li family's generation. Unfortunately, he was unlucky and died too early." After downing another mouthful of beer, Li Xian continued, "My second brother, Li Xiaobai, was accomplished at a young age. Although he wasn't as impressive as in Tianzhua, he was a well-known talent of the Li family. He had quite a good reputation outside. At home, he was a figure who could sit with his uncles and discuss the Li family's important matters. He was much better than a foppish son like me. Most of the old man's godson followed his lead. However, as you can see, Jiang Hao and Sumian were my childhood friends. They were the 2 closest people to me in the Li family, but they betrayed me one after another. They spared no expense to help second brother kill me, especially Sumian too. I'm certain that he wasn't my second brother's man before he returned to Luoyang. It's only been a few days, but he wants to do this to me. You should be able to guess my second brother's character and means." When Li Xian said that, he crushed the beer can in his hand. "Why? Didn't you not vie with him for the Li family's businesses? Just to prevent any accidents, you treated your own brother like this? Isn't your father doing anything?" Zhou found it unbelievable. "No, it's not because of the Li family's businesses. If it were only because of the Li family's businesses, we wouldn't have come to this," Li Xian said with a shake of his head. "Then why?" Zhou saw Li Xian remain silent and said, "Forget it if it's not convenient to say." Li Xian shook his head slightly and sighed after a long while. The higher the level of a dimensional creature, the greater the difference in strength. Just like how it's almost impossible for a legendary creature to fight an epic creature, the difference between an epic and a mythical creature is even greater. It can be said that 10 to 100 epic humans might not be able to kill a mythical creature. They might even be wiped out. I've learned it from the textbooks. Zhou felt that Li Xian was talking nonsense. Li Xian continued, "Then have you ever thought about how humans killed the first mythical creature with such a huge difference in strength? Legend has it that they were killed by the first few founders of the League. They are also the 6 League heroes of the textbooks." Zhou knew that Li Xian definitely had more to say. "Then do you know how they killed mythical creatures?" Li Xian asked with a smile. "The books say that it took 3 days and 3 nights of bitter battle." Before Zhou could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by Li Xian. "Don't believe the nonsense in books. If they were really at the epic stage, even 60 people wouldn't be able to kill a mythical creature, much less 6, Li Xian said disdainfully. "Then how was it killed?" Zhou asked curiously. "Because they have mythical companion beasts," Li Xian said. "Aren't your words a bit contradictory? Without killing the first mythical creature, how could he have a mythical companion beast?" "This doesn't make sense," Zhou said. Li Xian said with a smile. "Of course it's illogical. This is because their companion beasts weren't obtained from killing mythical creatures themselves, but given to them by someone. Although they might not be considered real mythical creatures and can only be said to be larvae of mythical creatures, it's enough to make people envious." "That doesn't make sense either. If someone gave them a mythical companion beast, the person who gave it to them must have killed a mythical companion beast," Zhou said with a frown. "No one can answer this question, at least I can't. I only know that there's such a department in the League's upper echelons that specializes in this matter. Some humans can obtain the qualifications like the 6 League heroes, and our Li family has such a qualification. And the person who might obtain a mythical companion beast in the future is me. If I die, this opportunity might land on second brother because I'm the person designated by the old man," Li Xian said teasingly. "I see. In that case, isn't your old man going to reign in your second brother?" Zhou asked in puzzlement. If it were him, he definitely wouldn't kill his own brother over such a matter. However, people were different from each other. Zhou didn't believe that his thoughts could represent everyone. In fact, he always felt that his character and thoughts were rather niche. "Reign in? How? Kill my second brother? Or give up my mythical companion beast qualifications? At this point in time, I can only fight my second brother," Li Xian said with glowing eyes. He didn't seem afraid and was even vaguely excited. "You have to be careful." Although Zhou had never seen Li Xiaobai in person, Jiang Hao and Sun Yintu's matter had left a deep impression on him. "I'll soon advance to the legendary stage. There's nothing to be afraid of. Instead, it's you who really has to be careful. You have ruined my second brother's plans twice. With my understanding of him, he won't let you off," Li Xian said solemnly. Zhou nodded slightly. He didn't believe that Li Xian was being an alarmist. It was very possible. Although private fights weren't allowed on campus, Sun Yintu had dared to take action in a dimensional zone under Li Xiaobai's control. It was hard to guarantee that there wouldn't be a second or third Sun Yintu on campus. Thankfully, you live in a standalone building in Four Seasons Garden. The situation here isn't as complicated as an ordinary dormitory. It's a lot safer. Speaking of which, I remember that the Yin family also has a qualification to obtain a mythical companion beast. Unfortunately, you aren't the Yin family's biological son. Otherwise, you might be able to vie with Jing, Li Xian joked. "Why vie with Jing? Didn't you say that Tianzhua is a genius? Isn't the Yin family's mythical companion beast qualification his?" Zhou frowned. "I don't know about that. When my old man told me about the mythical companion beast, he said in passing that the Yin family's candidate should be Jing. In Luoyang City, only our Li family and the Yin family have the qualifications," Li Xian said with certainty. Li Xian was in a bad mood. He had drunk quite a bit and was very drunk. After vomiting, he fell asleep on Zhou's bed. Zhou had no choice but to sit on the chair to game. After all, He had no intention of sleeping. Although the Li family's matter had nothing to do with him. Just as Li Xian had said, Li Xiaobai might be unhappy and want to finish him off as well. He had to be wary of this. However, no matter how he guarded against it, it wasn't as effective as having great strength. Chapter 62. Not long after Zhou Wen entered the game, and before he reached the Lotus Pond, a notification popped up in-game. Silver-winged flying ant is hungry. The notification quickly vanished. Zhou Wen ignored it and continued walking forward, but to his surprise, the system would automatically notify him every 10 minutes. This fellow feeds on companion beasts, but how can companion eggs drop so easily? Zhou Wen felt somewhat depressed, but all he could do was ignore it. If Zhou Wen was rich, he could buy companion eggs to feed the silver-winged flying ant, but he wasn't rich. The living expenses Zhou Lingfeng gave him were only enough for his daily expenses. He didn't have the spare money to buy companion eggs. I should grind the instance dungeons a few more times. Zhou Wen controlled the blood-colored avatar to storm into the Lotus Pond. At that moment, a video went viral on Sunset College's campus intranet. It was a video of Zhou Wen and Li Xian joining forces to kill the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. It was unknown which student had recorded the video, but it clearly recorded the entire process from a bystander's point of view. However, the video had clearly been edited. The entire video only ended with Zhou Wen summoning Silver Wing and flying with Li Xian. Seriously, isn't Li Xian the prodigal son of the Li family? How can he be so strong? He summoned 3 legendary companion beasts at the mortal stage and even slayed the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus that so many legendary seniors in school can't. Li Xian is too cool. The other freshman isn't bad either. Although he's a little weaker, he has 2 companion beasts. However, why do those 2 companion beasts look so unfamiliar? I don't think I've seen them before. Are they at the mortal stage or the legendary stage? Li Xian was completely popular. Due to Li Xian's fame, Zhou Wen didn't attract much attention. The video appeared on Qiao Siyuan's desk computer. He sat in front of the computer and watched it several times with his arms crossed. Did you notice anything? Qiao Siyuan asked Liz. Li Xian is very strong. This fellow is quite interesting. He acted really well in the past. None of the 3 brothers of the Li family are easy to deal with. Thankfully, the eldest had bad luck and died early. Otherwise, there might have been a chance to shake the families standing in Luoyang. Liz watched it several times as well, but Qiao Siyuan remained silent. She had long lost her patience. Qiao Siyuan shook his head slightly. That's not what I'm talking about. Have you noticed Zhou Wen? Naturally, although Li Xian is very strong, the commander should be Zhou Wen, Liz said. Qiao Siyuan stared at the computer screen as his eyes lit up. No, I'm not talking about that. Look carefully. Zhou Wen has done 3 consecutive jumps with all his might. Such a jump would probably be difficult even for you and me to complete without the support of a special primordial energy skill or primordial energy art. Liz was slightly taken aback as she looked carefully again. Gradually, a look of surprise appeared on her face. Indeed, without the support of a primordial energy skill or primordial energy art, it's very difficult for a human's body to complete 3 consecutive jumps under gravity. He clearly didn't use a primordial energy skill, which means his primordial energy art is extraordinary. Isn't it written on the information? He cultivates the ascetic meditation and has been cultivating it for many years, Qiao Siyuan said. But ascetic meditation is a primordial energy art that focuses on strength and constitution. It doesn't have the characteristic of continuous bursts. From the looks of it, Zhou Wen has hidden it well. It's unlikely he cultivates an ascetic meditation, Liz said. To her surprise, Qiao Siyuan said with certainty, No, I'm very certain that Zhou Wen cultivates an ascetic meditation. At the very least, he was definitely cultivating an ascetic meditation before we met him in Guide City. Why? Liz was somewhat puzzled. Don't tell me you didn't carefully size up a youth who suddenly appeared under those circumstances? Back then, his skin was slightly yellow and his eyes seemed to have a dark golden luster. Those are the characteristics of someone who cultivates an ascetic meditation for a long period of time. Back then, he must have cultivated an ascetic meditation for several years, but now, those characteristics can't be seen on him, Chao Siyuan said. But it hasn't been many days since we met him in Guide City. In such a short period of time, even if he cultivates in another primordial energy art, it's unlikely that he can completely replace the ascetic meditation he cultivated for several years, right? At the very least, the characteristics of his body will slowly deteriorate. It's impossible for it to completely disappear in a short period of time. That's the problem. Zhou Wen met Jing Daoxian, and not long after that, the ascetic meditation primordial energy art he cultivated in for several years was replaced by another primordial energy art. And not long after that, the Yin family gave the spot that originally belonged to Jing to Zhou Wen. Is there a connection? Chao Siyuan rapped the table with his fingers as he slowly said. Liz's body trembled. Minister, are you saying that the Yin family and the devil, Jing Daoxian, have some sort of connection? No, I never said that. However, Zhou Wen is indeed abnormal. Perhaps something happened between him and Jing Daoxian. To change a primordial energy art he cultivated in for several years in such a short period of time is something few people can do. It can be said that there are only a handful of people in the league, and Jing Daoxian happens to be one of them, Chao Siyuan said. If that's the case, doesn't that mean that Zhou Wen is Jing Daoxian's accomplice? We should bring him back for interrogation as soon as possible. Liz's eyes lit up. There's indeed a need for that. However, this is Luoyang, not our headquarters in the capital, Chao Siyuan said with a sigh. We can apply for a cross-district arrest warrant from the higher-ups. Sunset College wouldn't dare stop us from arresting him, Liz said. Sunset College wouldn't dare, but there's someone who dares, Chao Siyuan said indifferently. And Tianzhua? That can't be right. He dares to openly defy the League's laws? Liz frowned. He really dares, Chao Siyuan said with certainty. After a moment of silence, Chao Siyuan added, however, from Jing and Tianzhua's attitude, they must be very displeased that Zhou Wen took away the spot that should have belonged to Jing. Otherwise, the mighty overseer and wouldn't have deliberately criticized an ordinary high school student while patrolling Guide City. And Jing also wouldn't have specially transferred to Guide High School to beat Zhou Wen up. Then what do you mean, Minister? Liz probed. Immediately apply for a cross-district arrest warrant and bring Zhou Wen back immediately. We have to be fast. When the time comes, even if the Yin family receives the news and wants to rescue him, we should have already gotten everything we want to know. Besides, Tianzhua might not want to rescue him, Chao Siyuan said indifferently. Chapter 63. Today's weather is pretty good. Zhou Wen moved a chair and lay in the yard, basking in the sun as he gamed. As school hadn't officially started, there was no training or missions issued by the school. Zhou Wen's life was rather comfortable. He had been attempting to kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus alone, but unfortunately, he had failed. Thankfully, his efforts over this period of time hadn't gone to waste. He had obtained an ordinary Buddha heart lotus companion egg, but before he could warm it up, he fed it to the silver-winged flying ant-typical companion beasts only needed to attach themselves to their owner's body to absorb the primordial energy that seeped out of their owner's body to survive. They could also slowly recover from injuries without needing to eat. At most, they could absorb some primordial energy crystals to quickly recover their primordial energy. However, the silver-winged flying ant had to devour companion eggs or companion beasts. Otherwise, the game would constantly indicate that it was in a hungry state. Zhou Wen ignored it in the beginning, but as time passed, the game indicated that the silver-winged flying ant would vanish in 24 hours due to prolonged starvation. Therefore, Zhou Wen had no choice but to feed it the Buddha heart lotus companion egg that dropped to temporarily resolve its urgent situation. Zhou Wen was gaming in the yard while half lying down. Next door, Jing had already finished her morning cultivation and walked out of the cultivation room. She walked to the balcony on the second floor, hoping to look into the distance to relieve her psychological stress and continue her cultivation. He subconsciously glanced at the yard beside him and immediately saw Zhou when gaming in the yard while basking in the sun. He immediately felt his mood turn sour. Even if it's as Mom said, that his talent is better than mine, so what? Talent doesn't determine a person's achievements. To be addicted to gaming and escape from reality after suffering a little setback, what right does such a person have to compete for a mythical companion beast on my behalf? Besides, his talent might not be better than mine. And Jing watched for a while before turning to walk downstairs. At the same time, she muttered to herself, "Mom, just watch. I'll prove that I'm better than Zhou. I can fight for the rights to own a mythical companion beast myself. There's no need for Zhou." Just as Zhou was happily grinding, he suddenly heard someone call his name. He turned his head and saw Jing standing in the yard on the other side of the fence, staring at him. "What's the matter?" Zhou glanced at Jing before lowering his head to continue gaming on his phone. "The sun strafing art is real. You can cultivate it." And Jing paused before saying, "If you don't believe me, you can call Uncle Phone. He'll help you verify its authenticity." Zhou didn't care about the authenticity of the sun strafe art. After all, he had no way of cultivating it. "Why did you give me the sun strafe art?" Zhou asked as he played. "You must be indignant about losing to me last time, right?" And Jing said to Zhou, "There's no unwillingness. I'm convinced." He really didn't wish to have any more entanglements with Jing. It was best if the two of them could get along like strangers. And Jing swallowed the words she had prepared. She felt a little uncomfortable as she bit her lip and said, "I'll give you 3 months to cultivate the sun strafe art to advance to the legendary stage. With your foundation, 3 months should be enough. Then we'll fight again. If you don't advance to the legendary stage in 3 months, I won't show any mercy." After a pause, Jing added, "Don't say that I'm bullying you. I'll get someone to deliver primordial energy crystals and other cultivation necessities to you on time. If you need primordial energy skills or anything else, you can give me a list. I'll think of a solution for you. Remember, you only have 3 months." Zhou felt that Jing was being unreasonable, so he frowned and said, "I admit defeat. You've won. There's no need to go through so much trouble." Zhou didn't wish to take advantage of the family, nor did he wish to waste time competing with Jing again. It was meaningless to him. Even if he defeated Jing, he wouldn't gain anything. You have to fight. Remember, I'm only giving you 3 months. When the time comes, I definitely won't show any mercy." And Jing said coldly before turning to leave. She was afraid that if she continued looking at Zhou's detestable look, she wouldn't be able to resist the urge to beat him up. "Why must you fight me?" Zhou found it odd. If Jing hated him because of Ouyang Lan's remarriage, she could have beaten him up now. There was no need to go through so much trouble. "I want to prove that I'm better than you." With that said, Jing walked in her dormitory without looking back. Zhou found it somewhat baffling. In terms of excellence, Zhou only had a little fame in Guide City. However, Jing was publicly recognized as a genius girl in a big city like Luoyang. She had advanced to the legendary stage at the age of 14, while Zhou had yet to advance to the legendary stage. There was no way to compare the two. Are all the people from prestigious families so eccentric? Li Xiaobai schemed to kill his younger brother for a qualification, and Jing is equally baffling. Zhou shook his head slightly. After all, he had no intention of fighting Jing, much less cultivating the sun strafe art. As for whether he could advance to the legendary stage in 3 months, Zhou was still working on it. Of course, he hoped that he could advance to the legendary stage in 3 months, but the Lost Immortal Sutra was just too strange. It was impossible to deduce with common sense. After Jing returned to her building, she couldn't help but head to the balcony on the 2nd floor. She secretly glanced at Zhou in the yard and saw that he was still basking in the sun and gaming. He didn't feel any sense of danger from her words, nor did he have any intention of working hard. She couldn't help but bite her lip. It wasn't easy for Zhou to wait for Jing to leave, but before he could game for long, someone came to his door. Furthermore, it wasn't just one person, but four. Zhou looked up and saw a total of 4 people. He didn't know 3 of them, and the only one he knew was Gao Yang, who he had a grudge with because of Li Weiyang. Zhou originally imagined that Gao Yang and company were here for revenge, but to his surprise, when Gao Yang saw Zhou sitting in the yard, he greeted him with a beaming smile. Zhou, do you still remember me? 4th-year senior, Gao Yang. What's the matter? Zhou continued gaming, having no intention of opening the door to invite them in. Gao Yang wasn't angry as he continued chuckling. We could be considered to have gotten to know each other through a fight. It wasn't anything serious in the past. If I've done anything wrong, I'll apologize to you today. Regardless if it was right or wrong, let's just let bygones be bygones. How about that? Gao Yang naturally wouldn't reconcile with Zhou for no reason. Typically, when students saw the video of Xian and Zhou when battling the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus, they would only find Xian extremely powerful and Zhou much dimmer. However, people with sharp eyes knew that Zhou's role in the battle was far greater than Li Xian's. Li Xian was indeed very strong, but a student as strong as him could still be found in Sunset College. After all, Li Xian hadn't advanced to the legendary stage, and there were many legendary students in the school. They were enough to replace Li Xian in battle. Chapter 64. Sure, Zhou said with a nod. After all, he hadn't suffered any losses from the previous incident. The ones who had suffered were Gao Yang and Su Mei, so there was naturally nothing that couldn't be resolved. Gao Yang was very happy to hear that. He directly pushed the door open and walked into the courtyard. As he walked, he said, "There's another reason why I came to find you this time. Let me introduce them to you. These 3 are my classmates from the academy and are also your seniors. This is Hui Haifeng. You've just entered the academy, so you might not have heard of this name. However, once you get familiar with the academy, you will definitely hear of this name." Zhou, hello. Hui Haifeng extended his hand in a friendly manner. "Hello, I'm gaming. Get straight to the point." Zhou was controlling the blood-colored avatar to fight in the ant nest. There were vigor ants everywhere like a tidal wave, so he couldn't divert his attention to shake Hui Haifeng's hand. It wasn't that he was being disrespectful. Gao Yang and the other 2 were clearly displeased, but Hui Haifeng didn't mind at all. He said with a smile, "I saw the video of you battling the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. It's really impressive, especially your judgment and commanding skills. They truly astonished me. It's as though you can predict the future. The only pity is that something happened to your teammate, preventing you from slaying the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus." Noticing that Zhou had no intention of continuing, Hui Haifeng continued, "I'm here to invite you to join our team to slay the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus." Not interested. Zhou was already rather familiar with the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus. He believed that it wouldn't take long for him to slay it in-game without taking any risks. Gao Yang persuaded Zhou reconsider. Hui Haifeng is much stronger than Li Xian. These 2 are also legendary experts ranked in the top 20 in our school. If you join them in killing the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus, it's almost certain that you will succeed. You won't need to take too much risk. It can be said that there are only benefits and no disadvantages. Sorry, I'm really not interested. Zhou shook his head once again. Now, he was grinding the ant nest dungeon with all his might, hoping to have a companion egg drop to feed the silver-winged flying ant. For this, he didn't even head to the lotus pond. Instead, he chose ant nest, which had more dimensional creatures. He didn't have the time to kill the blood-patterned Buddha Heart Lotus with Hui Haifeng and company. However, on careful thought, he felt that what Su Mei had said was right. In a place like Sunset College, he needed to showcase his strength to obtain more opportunities. However, Zhou didn't need these opportunities at all. Instead, these opportunities would affect his gaming and become an obstacle. Gao Yang was somewhat unhappy. He viewed Zhou in a different light because Hui Haifeng admired him greatly. He couldn't tell how strong Zhou was. Hui Haifeng patted Gao Yang on the shoulder, making him swallow his words. Then he looked at Zhou and said, "How about this? I'll hire you to help us slay the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. If you have any requests, you can raise them." Just as Zhou was about to reject them and quickly send them away so that he could game in peace, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. He looked up at Hui Haifeng and asked, "Any condition? That depends on whether it's worth it," Hui Haifeng said with a smile. "You can hire me, but I want a legendary companion egg." Zhou directly stated his request. He had grinded ant nest all day and killed countless vigor ants. If he was lucky, one companion egg would drop. If he was unlucky, he wouldn't even get one. It was barely enough to feed the silver-winged flying ant. If he fed the silver-winged flying ant a legendary companion egg, it might be able to grow faster. It might not starve it so quickly. Gao Yang was somewhat displeased when he heard that. "Zhou, aren't you asking for too much? The chances of a companion egg dropping from the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus aren't high to begin with. Aren't you making things difficult for us by asking for a legendary companion egg now? That's my price. If you want something cheaper, you can find someone else," Zhou said without looking up as he gamed. Gao Yang was about to say something when Hui Haifeng beat him to it. "A legendary companion egg isn't a problem. What type do you want?" "Anything is fine." Zhou only used it as food. He didn't have any special requirements for its type. "All right, I can give it to you tonight. Can you come with us to the Lotus Pond tomorrow?" Hui Haifeng said without hesitation. Zhou finally looked up at Hui Haifeng and said, "Sure, but I have another condition." "Zhou, don't go overboard," Gao Yang said unhappily. "It's fine. Go ahead." Hui Haifeng's expression didn't change, as though he thought nothing of it. "If I go, everyone has to obey my commands. Before taking action, I need to have a detailed understanding of the companion beast you will be using. If you're going into battle yourself, I need to know your combat standards and primordial energy skills," Zhou said. "No problem." Hui Haifeng agreed readily. "Also, I won't be fighting personally like last time. I'll only be in charge of commanding," Zhou added. "What I fancy is your commanding ability. There's no need for you to take the risk," Hui Haifeng said with a smile. "Deal. When will my legendary companion egg be delivered?" Zhou lowered his head and continued gaming. 8 in the evening. Hui Haifeng thought for a moment before giving a time. After discussing the details, Hui Haifeng and Gao Yang left. On the way, Gao Yang said unhappily, "Haifeng, I really can't tell. Is Zhou really as important as you make him out to be? We have already watched the video of his battle with the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus many times. We already know what to do. With our strength, we can easily kill the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus ourselves. Why would we need to spend so much money to hire him? Seeing and doing are two different things. Besides, we only saw a portion of it. We still don't know if the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus has any other tricks up its sleeve. We don't know, and neither does Zhou. What's the use of having him?" Gao Yang still couldn't figure it out. "I have a nagging feeling that Zhou is somewhat different. Just treat it as buying insurance," Hui Haifeng said with a smile. At 8 in the evening, someone indeed delivered a legendary companion egg. At the same time, there was an agreement. After Zhou saw that there was nothing wrong with it, he signed the agreement and accepted the legendary companion egg. After closing the door and returning to the cultivation room, Zhou took out the legendary companion egg from a box. At the same time, he summoned the silver-winged flying ant. He wanted to see how the silver-winged flying ant could devour a companion egg in real life. When the silver-winged flying ant saw the companion egg, it flew over and opened its strange mouth. It bit the companion egg and sucked, instantly sucking it dry until only its outer layer was left. Soon, he arrived beside the lotus pond. The blood-colored avatar jumped off the silver-winged flying ant back and stood by the lotus pond to watch the battle. The silver-winged flying ant flew towards the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus in the middle of the pond without any hesitation. Bang! Bang! More than 10 blood-colored lotus seeds enveloped the silver-winged flying ant. It flapped its four wings and left afterimages in midair, easily dodging the range of the blood-colored lotus seeds. A speed of 20 was just too fast. In a blink of an eye, it arrived in front of the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus. The blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's petals contracted in a bid to devour the silver-winged flying ant. Just as it was about to be devoured, the four wings on the silver-winged flying ant's back flowed with silver light. Like a jet, it instantly dodged several meters to the side and dodged the devouring of the petals. At the same time, its sharp claws slashed at the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's petals like blades. The petals shimmered with blood-colored Buddha patterns that emitted a halo that blocked the silver-winged flying ant's claws. Although the silver-winged flying ant's strength was considered at the pinnacle of the legendary stage, it was unable to tear through the petals without the augmentation of a primordial energy skill. The petals didn't split apart, but they opened by themselves, revealing the venomous toad on the lotus platform. It opened its mouth and spewed a venomous arrow at the silver-winged flying ant. As the silver-winged flying ant easily dodged it, its tail flashed with a silver beam, shooting into the venomous toad's forehead. Bam! The venomous toad exploded, filling the sky with venomous arrows. However, the speed of the venomous arrows couldn't match the silver-winged flying ant's flying speed. After losing the venomous toad, the lotus platform was completely exposed. The lotus seeds that resembled blood crystals revealed their sharp edges as they emitted a blood-colored halo. The silver-winged flying ant didn't stop as the silver needle on its tail shimmered, shooting another magical needle at the lotus platform. The magical needle's attack range was only about 10 meters. It wasn't too far, but it was quite powerful. The Buddha heart lotus retracted its petals and once again used the blood-patterned Buddha glow to block it. However, it was penetrated by the magical needle and stabbed into the lotus platform. At the instant the magical needle stabbed into the lotus platform, a blood-colored explosion erupted like a volcanic eruption. 20 to 30 pillars of blood spewed out, turning into a rain of blood that blanketed an area of nearly 20 meters. Anything that came into contact with the blood rain was corroded into a bloody liquid. Even the other Buddha heart lotuses and lotus leaves that grew in the lotus pond were no exception. Even the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus's petals were corroded by the blood rain, becoming riddled with holes. Thankfully, the silver-winged flying ant was fast enough, allowing it to dodge the spray that covered a large area. Otherwise, it would probably have been melted into a bloody liquid. After the blood was all splattered, Zhou ordered the silver-winged flying ant to charge forward. At that moment, the blood-patterned Buddha heart lotus didn't have much ability to resist. It didn't take long for the lotus platform to be sliced open. Ding! Killed legendary creature. Mutated Buddha heart lotus. Discovered dimensional crystal. A dimensional crystal dropped from the mutated Buddha heart lotus and was about to fall into the pond. Thankfully, Zhou was quick enough to order the silver-winged flying ant to grab the dimensional crystal. Mutated Buddha heart lotus crystal. Zhou carefully sized up the words on the dimensional crystal and was immediately delighted. His slightly depressed mood from not having a companion egg drop instantly turned for the better. Although the mutated Buddha heart lotus crystal wasn't as valuable as a companion egg, its primordial energy skill might be able to help him rush into small Buddha temple. The primordial energy skill of an ordinary Buddha heart lotus is heart meditation, but the mutated Buddha heart lotus has several primordial energy skills. I wonder if absorbing its primordial energy skill crystal will also obtain heart meditation. Zhou wasn't sure. The silver-winged flying ant brought the mutated Buddha heart lotus crystal back to the blood-colored avatar's side. When the blood-colored avatar touched the crystal's energy immediately flowed into its body. Almost at the same time, Zhou felt a scorching energy flow out of the phone. It instantly filled his body, making him feel like there was a furnace in his body. All his sweat broke out as though he had just been scooped out of the water. After a while, Just as Joan believed that he was about to be roasted into a jerky, the scorching heat finally subsided. Instead, his body felt cool, especially his heart. There was an indescribable sense of comfort. It was a miraculous feeling of calmness and coolness. At the same time, many wonderful pieces of information surged into Joan's brain. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.